Yes, sir. Welcome, everybody, to our sixth and final episode of the original Trilogy Appreciation live stream. Oh my goodness, we got a whole bunch of people here tonight. Matt G, the Senate, Jedi Lukey. Oh my goodness. Who else? Who else is in the building? Cornville. Woo! Guilt, the Guilt Man, of course, as always. Hello, hello, everybody. Yes, Tug Life is in the building. Mac G. We're getting ready to rock the spot. Normally, I'd be having music right off the bat, but you're gonna get a whole lot of that during the entire show. First, I want to introduce my absolutely badass panel. We are still expecting my VP up here. Oh, as a matter of fact, here she is. Now we got the full group.
Hi, Nara.
Hello. Sorry,
So,
hurry as much as you could.
Introductions in order before I actually get started. To the left of me is one of the OG members of the Phantom Menace, like myself, and my inspiration for doing YouTube videos. So if it wasn't for me checking her out in SC Reviews, you would not be seeing me here. Stephanie Janizceck, Smugglers Cantina.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
And to the far left of me is the one and only magnificent Ords Board, hanging out with us once again.
Thank you for having me.
And down to me is my absolute badass vice president of the Abu Nas Rehabilitation Center, is the one and only Jade Shadow, Mara Jade.
Hello. Good to be here. I'm going to be on for as long as possible before my stream at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
And I found my old Ewok stuffed animal from when I was like 3 years old.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh,
That's freaking beautiful.
so cool.
And last but never, ever, ever, ever least is my muse and the OG Star Wars historian and hologram, because you're not going to get good knowledge of the old ECU lore without a OG Star Wars is back in the house.
Hi everyone, I am so glad to be here and break down Return of the Jedi, one of my absolute favorite in the 6 movies. And again, I'm your Legends girl, trying to make it in this canon world, and our heart stays with George Lucas' era of Star Wars. Thank you guys for coming.
Yes. All right, well, let's get started. I mean, Lord have mercy, we're doing this in 3 acts. And you did miss this, Mara. We're going to be talking about Jabba's Greatest Adventures, which is the first act. Family Revelations is the second act, when we talk about Luke, Leia, and their lineage, and Darth Vader and Luke. And the third act is Down with Darth Sidious. So basically, I'll start it off. I mean, the joy that I saw when I first watched it in the theaters, and I was pretty much 12 years old, so puberty was getting ready to hit with the president. Now I'm watching this thing and I'm already blown away just by going into Jabba's palace, and all the creatures and just everything that was going on in there, you know. And this was before the special editions, before we got all the other stuff. So I'm like, wow, man, they really did good with the makeups and everything else. But once we get to Jabba's palace and he got his little smoke on, and you know, he got the little dancers and stuff like that, I was like, and this is supposed to be a gangster. But that boy was no joke. And R2-D2 and C-3PO bringing Luke's message, and release Captain Solo to, and I'll give you the droids. They started bugging out. And I said to myself, wow, what I didn't even know Luke, hated the droids like that. They're just going to give them up. But we didn't know what was going on. And of course, Jabba just faked the funk, and he said, yeah, well, fuck you. I'm not giving up my prize mantle in the back. And Han Solo was still in carbonite. And I want to start with you, Steph. Your first impressions when you first saw this movie for the first time in Jabba's palace.
I'm going to give you guys a little revelation. The comic book came out, I think, a week before the movie was released.
There was a comic? Okay, I've never even heard of the comic. All right.
And George Lucas had a stroke. He was so pissed. But that's a little bit of trivia. I didn't. A friend of mine had gotten it. I couldn't get it because we just. I mean, it was gone literally 5 minutes after it was out. But people kept saying, "We don't want to spoil it, but don't worry. Everything turns out well in the end." And you pretty much figured out that the cliffhanger at the end of Empire Strikes Back was going to be resolved. But when the first thing you see is Vader's shuttle landing on the second.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. It was a short scene, but
yeah,
it was still important.
You think it's all right. And by the end of The Empire Strikes Back, he's not the same character he was in the beginning. You're not seeing what Vader was becoming in the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
He threatens Moff Jar and leaves. Then we get to Tatooine, and Tatooine is Tatooine. It will always look like Tatooine, empty, sparse, desolate, and the two droids, who look as lonely as they possibly could be, marching to this place, and it was kind of scary. You could almost smell like it was musty. And the door opens and you see a big spider run across, and we all screamed because we were, a bunch of girls going, ah. Then they get to the throne room, and I just remember like, that's Jabba. What the, they just, to me, when I first saw him, it kind of bugged me that he was basically a giant ball of slime. But then you start kind of putting it together. It's what I think what Jabba is supposed to be is a manifestation of everything, like greed, avarice, and all the rest of those things, slothfulness. That's what he is. And you see the droids get taken into that torture chamber, and that was freaking me. That the whole thing reminded me somehow of the Jawas sandcrawler.
Oh, okay. And
then you get into, back into the throne room, and Chewie and the bounty hunter, you show up, and you're like, no, because I hadn't read the comic book, so I didn't know. But it's
everything was a surprise for you, pretty much.
Yeah. Jabba's that whole thing. When you look at the plan now that Luke and Leia and Lando came up with, it's like, were you guys smoking crack? I mean, you couldn't you get the Rebel Alliance to maybe give you like a squad of shock troops to help? I mean, but it was such a great rescue.
Yeah.
You see Leia kind of growing from that tight, cold person that she was to this, this warm, vulnerable but tough as steel woman.
Yep.
And Han is helpless almost through the whole thing. And but there are people there. Chewie's there, Leia's there, and it was something about that whole thing in the middle of hell, which is what Jabba's palace kind of was, that these people would come back and get their friend out.
Right. Let me get over to these super chats real quick. We got Matt G with $5, and he says, "How come the rebels don't just storm Jabba's palace like Maul and his crew did?" That's exactly what Stephanie said. Bring the whole force down there. What is the EU's explanation for this? I seek your guidance. We will attempt to answer that for you in a minute, because I'll be passing it over to Ords Boards. The Guiltman $4.99 super chat. Hail to this incredible panel. Much love to you all. Big hugs and yeah, thank you all for doing what you're doing. Guiltman, I have to actually thank you for coming to my aid when the president was under siege yesterday. So thank you for getting in their behind and letting them know that their narrative was all false. And of course, Fatal J $5 super chat to my brother. This is gonna be a super duper star. I gotta rub elbows with him before he gets too big for us. Coming up, Ords Board. Your first impression watching the first act with Jabba in that palace? What
Real quick, Ted, the question that was posed over here with the whole why didn't they storm Jabba's palace with rebels and stuff? You know, the only thing that I could at least think of was that the Empire was obviously like searching the galaxy. They had radar out, they had droids out looking for people, and to bring a whole troop of rebels would bring a lot of eyes on Tatooine. You know what I mean?
I would also add to that, probably their forces were spread a little too thin for them to even warrant sending.
Yeah, they
there
could
for a rescue operation. That
right.
I'm not saying I would agree with it, but at the same time, it's like you're looking at the resources they have.
Right. And any kind of attention that they drew to themselves was a potential loss of the resources they had. So anyway, my first impressions. It was really interesting because I remember being like, this looks exactly like the Star Wars universe, but these characters are very much different than they were in the last movie. Like, I know, Steph, you talked a little bit about how Luke was a different person at the end of Empire. Well, I mean, really, he was at least in my eyes, was a different person between the end of that movie and even the beginning.
I was talking about Vader.
Oh, Vader. Right. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we get a Luke that's very confident. That's, confident in his power. And one of the most interesting things I think about that is, why is he wearing black? Why is Luke wearing black? And I know, like, it may be a reference, or at least there was that comic run, the Dark Empire or whatever, where Luke goes bad. Anyway,
there's something to that, which I think we'll get into when we talk about the third act. But there's a reason why Lucas put him in black.
Okay, and I know it was just one of those things that you notice in a character, like, wow, like I've never seen Luke in this kind of uniform before, this outfit before. So, I loved it, man. It was interesting. The droids, R2, C-3PO. I was a little kind of like, yeah, why is he just giving up these droids? Like. Wait, they've been here this whole time, and you're just there. You go, and then it does culminate to this beautiful moment with the Rancor and all that in Jabba's palace. We got so many new, interesting creatures at the beginning of this movie. Everything just kind of thrown at you. The guards, Jabba's guards. And I mean, doesn't Lando look totally badass in that outfit he wears?
I didn't even know. But he was in disguise, and I didn't know who he was until he pulled the thing down and we saw his mustache.
Yeah, well, it was like they definitely put you in this spot to think like something's up, something's going on here. Something is about to happen. And then Luke shows up and walks in there just like he owns the place. I was just going to say, my last point, I guess, I just remember having such respect for the character, the growth of that character from that last movie, from what he suffered to the confidence that he showed. And a green lightsaber, green being my favorite color. Who doesn't want to see that,
Yeah, hell yeah.
So there's just so much. I mean, I'm sure we all can talk for hours on it.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
It was just the same thing but totally different at the same time to me. So,
OG Star Wars, your first impressions.
Okay, so I got to see it when I was just preteens, I guess you could say. And I just was so amazed and at awe just seeing Luke and his transformation from seeing him being a naive farm boy into coming into the Jabba's palace and being commanding as a Jedi, seeing that growth. And at the time, I didn't have questions about why or how they came up with these plans. At the end of Empire Strikes Back, I knew they were sending off Lando to find out when and where, when is Han going to be delivered to Jabba, and and locate him and stuff. And so seeing that scene, seeing the droids go in and barter for him, and Luke, sending that message, and then seeing Leia come in as well as part of the rescue in her bounty hunter outfit, as well as seeing Lando being revealed as undercover. We know then that that's where he has been, and he penetrated that to rescue Han, or help rescue Han, and then to see Luke come in and again command respect as a Jedi and barter and try to barter that growth, that significant growth was what made me fall in love with Luke even more on top of that. And seeing him, confront the Rancor down there, and seeing how strategic he matured as a fighter, as a Jedi, again, that was really interesting to watch as well. And so that part gives me goosebumps. And going with his arc, and even Leia's arc, and if you look at all the three main characters, we have Han that needs to be rescued. We have Leia that we see she came from maturing as a senator into a womanhood type scenario where she's finding love and discovering herself as well. And then seeing Luke becoming his Jedi too as well, and seeing that even though he's still learning and training and still even failing, because he did fail, they kind of failed in rescuing Han in a sense, to where they end up being taken to the Rancor pit to be executed, be fed to them. And but seeing all these art go on and just being a suspenseful scene and captivating you, and this image right here I painted is from Jabba's Palace, Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
Beautiful.
Cool.
Mara Jade, your first impressions when you first saw coming into Jabba's palace. That's the start of the movie.
Well, I honestly cannot say exactly what my first impressions were because I was only about 3 at the time.
Okay, well that narrows it down. Okay, so let's fast forward to when you was mature enough.
Sorry if I made the panel feel so old, but I was like 3.
no, it's okay.
But thinking back on that first scene, like a lot of things spring to mind. One, yes, Jabba is a crime lord, but if you look at the setting, it almost reminds me of like a sultan, where he's surrounded by these like pillows. He has these slave dancers going around,
like a harem, huh?
Yeah, like a harem, pretty much. Setting, like which makes sense in a way because Tatooine is a desert. You think, like that setting, like the like sort of Middle Eastern harem feel to his how he has his surroundings. And then second thing was when I hate spiders, so I saw the huge spider go across. I'm like, nah, I don't know, just no.
Hey, Abu Nas, I'm supposed
Yes,
to
sir.
remind. Tugs told me to tell you to remind you about the super chats or something.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna let Mara finish and then I'll jump on it.
Okay, I'll try to be a little bit quick, but I think also that even though it's like a small rescue operation, if you look at it in a way, each one was like a contingency plan as they were coming in. Luke starts out by trying to get them the droids. Okay, that doesn't really work. Leia comes in with 2. That doesn't really work. Now Luke has to come in. That doesn't work. But there's a feeling to how he is whenever he defeats the Rancor, he still has this confidence to him, which makes you think he probably has seen a little bit of the future and what's transpiring or what could transpire. So he's not scared. Even then, he's not scared.
I ain't never even thought about it like that.
Yeah, he's not scared.
Well,
and he says it's the last mistake you'll ever make. He tells that to Jabba.
That's when he said that. I got chills.
That's an Anakin moment right there.
And even on the bar, he's telling Han, I'm taking care of everything, or I'll take care of everything. He has this a series of contingencies leading up to being over the Sarlacc pit and what happened. And another thing I'll mention, which brings in the EU, is when Luke meets Mara Jade. She says, if I had gotten on that barge, you wouldn't be here right now. You would be dead. And this whole what happened in the Return of the Jedi would not have happened.
Yeah, and Luke is a seer. So in the lore, Luke is a seer. So we see him in Empire Strikes Back, seeing the future. And so in part of his Force abilities is he's a seer as well. And then I'm going to go back to the EU, which is a great novel to read, is Shadow of the Empire, because then you get the full detail on the rescue mission and how they're trying to, find out where Han is, locate him, and, and plus other things that are going on, and how he created his lightsaber, all that. So, referring back to that, that's a great segue from Empire Strikes Back into
this.
Yes.
Oh my God, I got to get it.
Beautiful.
I gotta get it.
I got two. If you want one, I'll send it to you.
Please do.
Okay.
Okay, well let me get to the super chats. My brother Damaj and I, $2 super chat. Look at all these beautiful people. Hail my queen Pierre. Yes.
Hey, Janai, how you doing, man?
Oh man.
He's
Okay.
one of the old school guys too.
And we got J-Handle4, $3.50 super chat. Abu Nas, what's up, bud? What is up, my brother? Thank you for rocking with us tonight. I see that I'm gonna be pretty much doing double duty here, so oh my goodness, we got Mr. Mooney Blue one with the $50 super chat, Australian. How's it going, everyone? Am really digging the stream. Here's some We are here, Mr. Mooney Blue. Thank you so much for the $50 super chat, brother. We are here for your entertainment. And believe me, we've already been through this thing with the 5 other movies. So trust me, we're trying to go out with a bang with this one. Raging Rhino, the $3.99 super sticker. I don't know what the super sticker looks.
Fist pounding.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for the super sticker, brother. Okay. Since we're still in Act 1, let's get to that whole thing with the sail barge. Lord have mercy. I kind of figured to myself, with C3PO and R2D2, being waiters, poor Leia, got the chain on her. And all our heroes, Han is blind, Chewie is, still tied up, but Lando's undercover, so we already know the setup is going to be, and Luke is just so confident. He's just like, relax, everything, just be with Chewie and let it fat. I thought of everything, and I was like, oh, I was getting all giddy and everything, but I still didn't know how it was going to happen. So by the time, and Luke was just talking so much. Gangsta Jabba, this is your last chance. Free us or die. And Jabba just laughing his head off. It's like, move this dickhead into position. Stephanie, give me your impressions on that whole scene right there.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Watching them go up to the Sarlacc pit. And of course, being cynical, you can't see, you can't do anything. It's like, we're pretty much screwed. Luke says, I was born here, And Al looks at him and goes, you're going to die?
Yes. Love that. I love that banter between those two.
But watching how the whole scenario came out, and the thing I love about it when I think about it is the way R2D2 is used. Mm-hmm. The R2 literally is the unsung hero of the whole thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Preach.
I mean, and when Luke, salutes, you're looking, who's he saluting? Okay, well, what's R2 gonna do? Oh, okay. Now I see what he's gonna do. And it was yet another cliffhanger, but you kind of figured it wasn't gonna end up in Jabba's favor. And in the end, they actually just crushed that part of the Hutt cartel by getting rid of Jabba.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, it was the whole thing. Jabba's sail barge, the sand skiff they were on was very different and new. Mm-hmm. And I think that was another thing that was really cool about just the setting.
Right. Especially in the sand. Mara Jade, your thoughts on that whole sail barge debacle. I mean, Stephanie really broke it down, man. It's a mixture of comedy. It's a mixture of just suspense. Especially if you're watching it for the first time. Your impression.
Just to piggyback off of what she said and kind of what I said earlier, and the fact Luke is still confident. He's basically still challenging Jabba, and the way he's wording his dialogue is thinking, when I think about it, it's the Jedi in him. He doesn't want the violence to happen,
right,
but he's prepared for it to happen, basically, because he's seen what could transpire, and at this point, I think he understands that the future is fluid. So they could change if Jabba were to say, okay, I'm going to let your friend go, which we know Jabba wouldn't do because of his whole mentality as a crime lord, pretty much. And then what I also love is, like, this is a deleted scene, which I wish we had seen in the theatrical release, and that is we see Luke constructing his lightsaber
I would
right
love to have seen
before
that.
he sends the droids into Jabba's palace. So I mean, so in a way, it would have kind of spoiled the moment with R2-D2, but I would have loved to seen like him building it prior to it, because it's a green kyber crystal, and he's constructing his own lightsaber.
Yeah, and it's a rite of passage too. So, OG Star Wars.
All right, so with this, and I have the book on me too. So what I like about the like they said, the banter between Luke and Han, I also like it expanded in the novel to where Han is still very doubtful in his Jedi abilities because he doesn't believe in the Force. Basically, we already have that established in the lore, and so basically. He tells, after their banter, he tells him in the book, if this is your big plan, so far I'm not crazy about it. So that's Han. So that's typical Han, and that's what I love about even reading the novel. And then, so let's get to Leia inside Jabba's barge.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we seen, Luke plan this out with the unsung hero, R2-D2. They strategically hide his saber. He does all this. And, that action scene on the barge is amazing. And, we could really see his development in his training, his personal training between his movies. But when we look at Leia, we see her trying to still stay dignified despite her being in a harem-type costume or, and we know that, she somehow is Force sensitive because of her father. We know that already once we get to know all the lore and stuff. And so her, just taking command basically and, wrapping that chain around Jabba's neck and just taking command and like strangling him, or at least getting him to pass out, strangle him. And her, getting herself out of there, rescuing herself, even though, she's a badass woman. That's what I'm getting at. She's a badass woman that George created well. And so that resonates with me as well, because she was so strategic as well. And they all rescued each other again. And that's their theme. They all rescue each other. And they have been doing that for the last two movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Ords Board.
Yo.
Yeah. Your impressions on the wholesale barge incident. When they outside and things was getting hairy for a second, Han telling Luke, we're going to die here, so get your nerves ready. Jabba talking shit. Like I said, your thoughts on it and how it affected you in terms of the action piece there.
Okay. Well, being a young man, the first half of that movie with Princess Leia in it is, there's that.
Yeah.
But to add on to what they were saying about the, her taking command and killing Jabba with the, choking him to death. It's just like, wow, like that. What a way to create a character that not only takes care of herself, but is feminine, beautiful, strong. Just as a young man, that makes an impact on you. But again, with the confidence, like, when Luke's standing there getting ready to do his thing, and I think when he does the salute, right? He like looks up, just and then smiles and does his thing, and then you're like looking at people you're watching with. Who is this guy? This isn't Luke. This isn't the Luke screaming no at the end of Empire. Who is this guy?
Yeah,
like
he had swag on him.
Yeah. It was just so baffling because. You didn't know, like, you're like, what? Why is he so? They're way over there. He's there. Han Solo can't see. Like Chewbacca's, he's up in his issues. Oh God, it's like, and then having Han Solo and Luke Skywalker on the complete opposite ends, where Luke is that confident thing, and like Han's already accepted death, right? Han's like, okay, it is what it is. It's been good. yeah, it's been good. But most importantly, like, we haven't mentioned it yet, but most importantly, how are you going to kill off Boba Fett right away like that?
Well, at the time, Lucas kind of figured, well, we got to advance the plot. Boba Fett is badass. He had his moment in Empire. I kind of figured George,
That's a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
I think she's frozen.
Did she freeze?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully we'll get her back. But yeah, what was the deal with Boba?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think it was like just the kind of like Lucas's attempt at humor. I don't know why he exactly did that. Unless, of course, it was to kind of get rid of the person who would be hunting down Han for the entire movie because he has a thing against him. So it's like, you know what? I don't want that to be like a subplot of the movie, so I'm just going to knock him into the Sarlacc pit and just be done with that character.
Yeah.
But the kind of Mark, Gospel according to Mark with the C in the chat was what I was going to say, and that is the additional humor in that scene where Lando gets knocked down. And he's holding on to something to keep from going into the Sarlacc pit, and Han is like aiming at him. And he's like,
I love when he said, "Hey, I thought you were blind."
it's like it's all right, trust me. Like the original cut, it's all right, trust me. And he's like, a little higher. I remember laughing at that part. Basically,
their relationship that is something I think we definitely needed more of. Is that relationship between those two, because I feel like they might have been like at some point could have had their own movie, those two the characters, or maybe like a series or something. Not nowadays, but back then. Just that whole sequence was great.
Yeah,
Right,
Stephanie, your question.
All right, what did I miss because StreamYards bumped me out of here?
No worries. Not really nothing. We just went over pretty much the whole Boba Fett thing. And how he just got in. You was asking a question.
I'm gonna say that the way they killed him off, I was like, I want to see him die in a gunfight. This is not the way you kill a guy like that off.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, Han killed him accidentally.
He hit him in the back, and he just flew with the rocket. Yeah.
Yeah, but
it was a little like, really, like that's how he goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but at the very least, we got the EU to bring him back and put him back on the right track. We got Snow Dub, Music and Entertainment with $2 super chat. Much love from the Cotton Connection, brother. Thank you for popping by here. So glad to see you. Who else is in the building? Osmosis with the $2 super chat. We wouldn't be here without you, Master Nas. No, actually, I depend on you guys to keep me going. Thank you so much for the super chat, Osmosis. And of course, my brother from New York City, RC from New York City, $20 super chat. All hail the president, all hail the panel, all hail the chat. Hope everyone is doing well and be blessed. Thank you so much for the super chat, brother.
Sorry, I want to kind of acknowledge something in the chat. Bone says, according to Disney, Boba Fett's still alive. There must have been a safe space inside the Sarlacc pit. Well, that's not Disney. He was alive in the EU. He basically shot himself, like with his blasters, like out, not out, but like getting out of the Sarlacc pit, like killing it from the inside.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So this was like Disney is basically taking credit for something that already happened in.
I think Lucas himself said he survived.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but then again, like Disney is not even following its own canon because I never read the Aftermath series. Apparently, he's supposed to be dead, but now you're bringing him back in the Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, well, and then of course then they're like, well, it could end up being Sabine Wren wearing Boba Fett's.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like this. If you do that, go with Kathy and hide somewhere.
You damn right.
Fucking now.
You damn right. Damn right.
Just no.
Well, before we get into the second act, I gotta now tell all my friends here in the chat that this is the tradition that I do with each and every live stream that we talk about the movies, is that I do a recap of all previous episodes. And yes, we are going to go through the whole thing because with Return of the Jedi, that's where I'm ending it off. So I want to get all you guys ready and set. So check out what we're going to do with the Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace, ladies and gentlemen. Phantom Menace. Oh man, doesn't it make you good? Make you feel good about yourself. Yeah. The Phantom Menace, Episode 1. The real Star Wars story has begun. Anakin Skywalker was only 9. He was so sweet, so good, and so kind. Before he was the greatest villain of our time, he was a great pilot that always shined. Lived on Tatooine, born a slave. He only had his mom that he loved every day. He did everything to make ends meet. He fixed everything he found off the street. His destiny changed when he met Qui-Gon Jinn. He won this freedom after racing. But before that, he met the angel of his dream, Padme Amidala, who was the queen. He told his mom he'll be back again when he's strong enough to win a freedom. She smiled and told him to not look back. She loved him forever, and that was a fact. As sad as he was, Anakin finally left, and then Darth Maul ambushed him on the set. And but Qui-Gon Jinn was yes the true vet. He fought the Sith without breaking a sweat. They all got away, and he met Obi-Wan as they flew off back to Coruscant. The Jedi Council told Qui-Gon Jinn, "What did you find in the desert, my friend?" He said he found the one that was chosen from the high count of the midichlorians. Mace Windu said, "No, that can't be. That little boy fulfills the prophecy. He is the one. I will train him myself." They said, "Hell no, you got to go help Queen Amidala reclaim the throne." The dark side of the Force was now shown. It was Darth Plagueis who saw Anakin for the first time, and he started panicking. He saw the end of the Sith through him. Darth Bane's grand plan will be ruined if they don't stop this young boy from doing whatever he think he'll be pursuing. He saw Qui-Gon Jinn by his side. He concluded that he'll be the Jedi. He knew right then that boy got to die in order to keep the grand plan alive. They flew to Naboo and won the whole day. Queen Amidala is here to stay. Darth Maul's dead, but so was Qui-Gon, and Yoda was worried that something was wrong. Obi-Wan said, "I made a promise for my master to go finish this. Train Anakin to defeat the Sith, fulfill the prophecy, and then live in bliss." Yoda said, "I agree, then proceed to teach Anakin everything that he needs." Darth Plagueis died, Sidious arrived to find a new apprentice to stand by his side. Oh yeah, that's how you get down. And you know, 10 years passed, Anakin grown up to be a strong, strapping young man. You know, with Obi-Wan right at his heels. 10 years, and now we go to their next grand adventure. Their next grand adventure in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Story of love being renewed once again, and the mystery and the intrigue that followed it up. Check it out. You see, Attack of the Clones, Episode 2. Padme Amidala now travels to Coruscant to vote on something large, the act that will put the military in charge. She got ambushed in broad daylight. Chancellor asked the Jedi protect her life. They called in Anakin and Obi-Wan to look over her until the thread is gone. 10 years pass, Anakin still in love with the woman of his dreams from high above. The would-be assassins, yes, tried again. They failed, now let the mystery begin. The Jedi Council said enough is enough. Obi-Wan, go to Kamino, see what's up. Anakin head to Naboo with Padme and make sure that no harm comes away. Obi-Wan was shocked by what he saw. A full-fledged army prepared for war. They're clones of the bounty hunter Jango Fett. Darth Tyrannus hired them for the project. Anakin and Padme professed their love, but they couldn't act on it, and that's because they're from two different worlds that should not collide, and it was tearing them both up from the inside. That night, Anakin had a bad dream. He packed up and headed straight to Tatooine. His mother was kidnapped, he feared the worst. When she died in his arms, he had the thirst of the rage and the anger he kept at bay. He killed every sand person in his way. He made another promise in front of her grave that he will stay strong to his dying day. Count Dooku told Obi-Wan the Sith is back. they gotta band together to counterattack. Obi-Wan said, no, you must let me go. Count Dooku said, no, you the star of the show. Anakin and Padme try to rescue him, but they both was captured. Let the games begin. Palpatine said the Separatists want a war. Let's give them exactly what they bargained for. Mace Windu said, I'll take the Jedi to rescue Obi-Wan before he died. Yoda said, I'll head out to see the clone, to see what kind of skills that they now own. Mace Windu came out hard with the whole squad, killed Jango Fett, but they stuck in the yard. Count Dooku said, sorry, you got to die. Then Yoda and the clones came from out the sky. The Clone Wars began, all hell broke loose. The Jedi was fighting for justice and truth. The Geonosians had a wicked plan that must not fall in the hands of man. Gave it to Count Dooku and they all left. Dooku already know how to use it best. He will bring it to his master and they will rule the entire galaxy, only them two. Anakin and Obi-Wan had caught up to him, but Count Dooku was too strong for them. He was about to kill him when Yoda arrived. He handled Dooku quick, so he had to fly. The fighting was over, but the war began. Dooku showed Darth Sidious the plan. Anakin and Padme got married on Naboo. It was still a secret, so nobody knew. Yoda knew that the dark side was involved, but that's another problem that they must solve. Like that. Yeah, the intrigue of all things that dealing with love. But right now we are still rocking with Return of the Jedi, the last act. And that brings us all the way up to the second act, which I would like to call Getting the Band Back Together and Family Relations. Mm-hmm. Now, to start this off, I know everybody went their separate ways. But I want to actually touch on, and I'm not going to get too bogged down on the Bothans thing, because I guess that was more of a setup. I want to concentrate on first Luke's talk with Yoda when he came back to Dagobah, because he had to find out what the truth was, and that is an important scene. And like I said, I want my panel to really, get in the mindset. For me personally, that whole question was the cliffhanger being resolved in and of itself. I thought at first that it wasn't true. I thought he was lying. And then when Yoda said it was, that opened up a whole thing for me in terms of what the hell happened. What the hell happened? I went from hating the villain to knowing that that's his father, and it's like, what happened? What happened to him? And then Yoda still didn't, divulge anything other than the fact that that is his father. You rushed yourself to try to face him, not ready for the burden, were you? So they didn't even want to tell him because it was too much of a mind-blowing thing. Yeah. But Yoda passing on was another sad thing about it, but now he's giving tidbits on what his future is going to be. And I absolutely love that scene. It's intimate. It's having the wise Jedi master that trained Jedis for 900 years. Finally, we're seeing the end of his life, and he's comfortable, but you don't like to see him sick. It's just a whole range of emotions. But what I took from it was Yoda's final lesson to Luke: pass on what you have learned,
Exactly.
and get the Jedi back up and running. You know what I'm saying? So pass it to my brother Ords Board. You're and like I said, we'll try to keep the answers, get the answers out, but try to keep it as short as possible, because now I'm getting all these super chats, so I'm trying to pull double duty. So Ords Board, Ords Board, your impression.
So I feel like this scene is necessary, not only to give Luke a reason to focus on his training and what he's learned, and it's like a reminder going into this final battle, a reminder to him to remember, again, like you said, his training and to pass it on. But it's also necessary to add layers for the audience. It gives us another layer and another reason to root for the rebels. Because this character that we've grown to really appreciate, especially, there's a comedic side to Yoda after being isolated for so many years, He's we can attach ourselves to him easily because you know, we know people like that in our lives. You know what I mean? Like wise people who make jokes. And yeah, so it was just it was a necessary scene to continue the story forward, to get everybody else on board with what was about to happen next.
Yeah. OG Star Wars.
All right, so for that, you know, like you said, it's there's many different layers to that, and we see, you know, him going back to return to finish his training, and Yoda's like, well, basically, you are done. All you have to do is just, you know, do the last basic trial of your Jedi trials, confronting the Sith or the dark side user or whatever, and so that scene was a huge, pivotal, really, really thick moment in Luke's life, and for the audience as well, who's following and growing along with Luke's arc, because we get a sense, you know, he tells him the truth after Luke tells him, so he is really my dad, and he's like, the truth you weren't ready for. And basically what I got from that is that at the time, they didn't tell him fully exact the extent of the truth, I guess you can say, and people debate this all the damn time, and that's fine, because we all interpret it in our own ways, is that for me, they knew he was still training, they knew he was vulnerable to the dark side, so that's why they didn't give him the full extent of what happened to his father, or even pulled him off at hand. And you would even say, like, see them saying he's not ready for this just yet. So to me, that was a little layer of depth of where Luke is going and his strength in the Force at the time, and his growth. That also lent to his growth as well. And and then finally he, you know, speaks it out with Yoda, and then they have their banter outside to where they talk about there is another Jedi or another one, and you know, of course, we all knew who it is. It's Leia. So we also start learning about there's a relationship going on here. What's going to come from that?
Right.
So it leaves a lot of scenes open for, you know, what's to come. So.
Okay, Mara J.
I mean, I don't know if you want to exactly also talk about his interaction with Obi-Wan's Force Ghost.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the Yoda part out the way.
So the Yoda part, I also you still have Luke with a little bit of overconfidence in this scene, because Yoda basically says, you know, like, no, like, you're not going to be a Jedi Knight until you face Vader, pretty much. And it's basically him. I don't want to say like necessarily softening the blow, but basically like softening the impact of the revelation that that guy who slaughtered an entire galaxy basically said he was your father. Yeah, he's your daddy, pretty much.
He's your baby daddy.
That's what he used to kill the younglings.
Yeah, no biggie. Yeah, no biggie.
So it's like Yoda is still in a way trying to, like I said, soften the impact for Luke, because he doesn't want to exactly come right out and say what he told you is true. That like the second in command to Darth Sidious is your father.
Yeah. Stephanie?
Well, you know, when you're watching that scene, and you kind of wonder, you've got Luke who didn't know his parents, growing up on Tatooine. His uncle tells him lies, and Obi-Wan
to protect him.
Yeah. And Obi-Wan, when they're finally together training, Obi-Wan kind of fashions the truth. Then you've got Vader just spilling, no, I am your father. What? Wait, what? And that scene, anyway, I won't go back to that, but that scene is something that really is powerful, I think, for both characters, because Vader starts to change. And you see it at the end of the movie. But Luke, in this instance with Yoda, you wonder how much he knew about Anakin. Because he had to know what his name was. He had to have been able to at least get some information about what kind of guy he was. And when I look at I've never really found anything. But because my father was a great Jedi and he was murdered by Vader, well, I want to go find out more. You know? So when I look at that scene, it's like, how much did he know about Anakin and who he really was? Because that would make it, I think, a lot harder to realize what had become of Anakin.
Right.
You know? because it wouldn't be in the Jedi archives if they sliced into it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. And
So-
and that pretty much goes into his talk with Obi-Wan. And I'm gonna start with you, Ords. Now it comes to the point where Luke is like, I can't do it alone, and Yoda will always be with you. And it's almost like Luke forgot Obi-Wan could have been there, and the first thing that came out of his mouth, why didn't you tell me? You know? And he said, you know, I told you the truth, but in the classic, the certain point of view. And Luke is just sitting up there like, what? But as he was dropping it, it was just almost like, now Obi-Wan is in confession, I think, for lack of a better word. He's finally having because he took care of Luke whenever he was a baby, and he knew he held on to all this knowledge, even in episode 4 when they first got together, and he knew all of it. He knew R2. He had to keep all of this silent until such time when he finally spilt the beans. And watching this for the first time, because we didn't have no knowledge of the prequels, I felt like, okay, finally we're getting the truth now. So, or take me through that in terms of your thought process with it.
Well, I not to get into details, but I've had a similar moment in my life where I was told some information by somebody I didn't know about somebody that was very close to me, and it was having that moment where you're like, well, why didn't you bother? Why could you not tell me this? Like I could relate to that moment very easily. So in the same sense, so I understand, because Luke's not stupid, and Obi-Wan knows this. Obi-Wan knows the potential this kid has, and knowing what Force visions are, and so on and so forth. Maybe even Obi-Wan knowing he was a seer, so that's why he would say something along the lines of like, I don't ever seem to remember owning a droid, to really throw him off the scent. I mean, because he knows the potential, but it's just another layer of Luke's growth, and kind of stepping into his own role as a man. We had Uncle Owen, who was a decent role model for him for the most part, and then we have the next level, somebody who actually knew his father, very close to his father. He confides in, and Ben becomes that, or Obi-Wan becomes that father figure. And then having that moment with your father, which I'm sure many of us have had that moment, like, why didn't you never tell me this, Dad? So it's just very relatable, but adding layers to that character, stepping into his own, manhood, like questioning authority, and then taking control of his own destiny. So,
gotcha. OG.
All right. So basically, he, this is like the sugar coating and protecting him so that he doesn't make any wrong mistakes, basically. And what I like in the novelization is this has been telling Luke this in their banter, their talk. I was going to tell you when you had completed your training, the vision of Ben's been answered. But you found it necessary to rush off unprepared. I warned you about your impatience. His voice was unchanged, a hint of scolding, a hint of love. So basically that they were, again, like I said earlier, that they knew that in his mind, and they knew about the dark side, that if he was going in it, knowing that he could be more vulnerable to join Vader if he knew he was his father going in. That's how I see it. And because you see the Skywalkers, and they're all about family love. It's a family thing. And Luke is discovering who his father really is. He wasn't a spice runner, navigator, spice runner. He was really a Jedi. So, then turned, Sith. And so, having them really tell him in the beginning, that would have probably compromised the whole mission of their plan on getting rid of Sidious and stuff. Right. And so that's why they told, I guess you could say, the half truth. So, so I don't know, Mario, you want to expand on that some more? I know you have some stuff to say.
It's kind of, in a way, you could look at it as like a half truth, basically. But like the whole angle from a certain point of view, in a way, looking at it, Obi-Wan is telling the truth. Uncle Owen was telling the truth.
Exactly.
But they were spinning the words in a certain way. Like, for example, I know I wasn't on the panel for A New Hope. But Uncle Owen saying Obi-Wan Kenobi died, at the same time, your father
That's your
did,
father,
or something
yeah.
like that.
He
Is, in
said he
fact,
died at the same time around the same time as your father.
Which, if you think about it, it's kind of like a poetic truth, because when Anakin became Lord Vader, the way Obi-Wan said, Lord Vader killed Anakin.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan died that day as well because he took on the mantle, Ben Kenobi.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so in a way, yes, it's a half truth, but it's also, like I said, a poetic way of cushioning truth. So that way, so Obi-Wan saying, Lord Vader killed Anakin, he's telling the truth.
Right.
Basically,
Yeah.
Lord Vader, that persona took over Anakin Skywalker
Yeah.
that day on Mustafar.
Yeah. And that's and Mara, that's how I see it.
Mhm.
When I think about
Okay.
Anakin, I think like he was assumed by Vader. Like a body, soul, and everything was assumed by Vader. And at that moment he died. He was gone. And Obi-Wan, I really think it was the way they wrote that scene out, and they wrote the whole relationship between Obi-Wan, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Luke, is really, really kind of neat, because it's sort of almost poetic. Like he knew them both as young,
That's
kids, and watched them both grow up, and Obi-Wan being terrified he'd lose Luke too, to the dark side, and that's what they were saying. That's what they were afraid of. But since he was told that by Vader, then they had to kind of come up with a lighter way of saying, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
By the way, there's more. And then he's told, you have a sister, and it's Leia. She's your twin.
And it was weird how when he said your sister remains anonymous, it was like Luke found out through the Force. The way he like bowed his head and then his eyes popped up, like the Force gave him that revelation.
Yep.
And I said that was brilliant.
Yeah, I agree.
Truth is hidden in his subconscious, and the Force, helped him realize that, he has that twin bond, even though it was severed at their birth because of the situations. It just kind of went back into, even the EU expanded on the twin bond, and and the bonding that some Force users have.
Yeah, but Ords Board did he actually took it all in stride though? I mean, so much information he had to process, but the way Mark Hamill acted out in there, it looked like he was reflective, but he took it all in stride. I'll put it to you that I guess it's that maturity.
It was that layer of him coming into his adulthood, like really taking on that my own destiny role. He was like, again, looking back to what just happened with Yoda, like, how am I gonna handle this going forward? I'm pissed off about it, but you know what? At the end of the day, I got a job to do,
right?
And I got to go forward with that job. And it's just, again, adding that layer onto it, man. And that's what made this scene so heavy. And
it was, it was.
The thing about it to me is it's almost as though that he something revealed itself in the Force that he knew all along. It was he and Leia both knew it the whole time, but
we're going to get to that scene though. Don't worry, I know you probably want to add on to that.
Well, I'm just saying that in that scene where he's told that Leia is his sister, it's almost like the lights came on, and the whole time.
Right.
And sorry.
No. I was going to read Matt G's super chat, $2 super chat. Yoda and Obi-Wan gave him the Reader's Digest version. Go ahead, OG.
All right. So, and the thing is that we're talking about how well Luke played, or not Luke, but Mark Hamill played Luke Skywalker, especially, in this last movie here. He did win an award for it as well, the Saturn's Award. So.
I don't know what door he's knocking on, but it's not mine.
He's at the wrong house.
The cops are on their way.
I thought that was funny.
Probably scaring one of my elderly neighbors.
Yeah.
Somebody
All right.
called the cops on him, you know.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna skip. Well, obviously, by the time they get all set up and they exchange pleasantries, got on the shuttle Tigerium, got to the thing. Obviously, Vader sensed that Luke was on the shuttle, but they got through it. But that was going to set up what the next big thing we're going to be talking about. But just to segue away from that real quick, I really enjoyed the comedy in that movie, especially with C-3PO. Me myself personally, I thought C-3PO was shining in that movie, especially by the time we got to the Ewoks. I mean, the way that they praised him as a god, and Han Solo was just. Oh my goodness, he was so irate. And when he tried to get at C-3PO, the Ewok was just,
I love when C-3PO says, against my programming to impersonate a deity. And he's like,
oh my goodness, Han Solo's face went from this to, why you?
And Luke's all like this, laughing like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah. And like Han Solo's like, he's a friend of mine.
He changed the tune real quick. Yeah, them little teddy bears do not play around. They got a society. They got Stephanie got the official blaster and everything. Yeah, so I really love the comedy that they put in there with C-3PO. I thought he really shined. Love the way he told that little story and stuff. But this is now it's coming to segue where Luke now has to tell Leia exactly this whole thing, and it's to me it's a little bit it's sad in a way, because now I got the context of the prequels, and it's sad that they had to been split up by birth, lived different lives, but at least Leia had some visions and stuff of Padme. I mean, I know the writing was done way before the prequels, saying, she died when she was very young, but she died in childbirth. But I guess it could be, maybe some of the novels might have, elaborated on it.
And like one of the original screenplays, actually, because I found this online, there is an extended dialogue with Obi-Wan and Luke where Obi-Wan goes into that Padme was lived as like a handmaiden of sorts on Alderaan. So that's how Leia knew her mother. She died when Leia was young, but Leia knew when she was adopted by the Organas.
Right, but that was before the prequels.
It was before the prequels.
Yeah, George switched it up. Okay, but at the very least, it's still poignant because she had some vision or some knowledge of the mother, and I felt for Luke where he didn't get nothing. And just we knowing what we know about Padme, and I'm gonna start with you, Stephanie. That whole exchange when he's actually telling, Leia, what do you know about your mother? That whole scene,
Yeah, well, it's it was almost. I mean, you look at the end of The Empire Strikes Back. I remember leaving it, and my sister-in-law saying they're brother and sister, and we're all looking at her going, "What?" I was sobbing, by the way. But it made everything make sense. It did. And what the two characters are going through, because Leia, she didn't know her parents. I mean, she had visions of her mother. She didn't know who her father was, and she was
her father was Bail Organa. That's who she thought.
That's who she considered. She knew she was adopted, but she didn't. Bail was her father, and Breha was, her mother. And Luke is dumping a lot of information on her after all the things that she suffered over Vader, to find out the person that did all that stuff to her, to Han, to Alderaan, to the rest of the galaxy, to other people, would be kind of heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, this person she hated more than anybody else in the universe, and he's her father. Oh, goody! Yeah, let's have it for dinner. We can have a family thing.
Yeah.
And the whole her reaction is she's afraid. You almost think that she's not really accepting what he told her.
Yeah, that was right. I mean, it was almost like she just like cringed, like at the thought.
And then when he leaves, she's crying, and she can't tell Han. I mean, then you look at what that means.
Right.
Like, how's he gonna feel about her when he finds out that information after all the shit he went through?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit. She. I think the EU really handled that well.
Yeah.
With how she came to terms with Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It really did. I mean, I love the scene where he confronts her in Truce Bakura, and then Tatooine Ghost is my favorite.
Oh, yeah, I still got to read that. Speaking of which, OG Star Wars, your thoughts on that whole scene right there.
Okay, so if I'm going to back up and go all the way to the speeder chase first, and I did a fun fact about the speeder chase, but when Luke and Leia are zooming around on the speeders in the forest, on Endor Moon, you really see, and this is before the revelation of who Leia is, you really see, oh shit, she's a Skywalker, because how she can handle the speeder, how she can drive, operate it real fast and have those quick reflexes. So then we get to the scene of Leia or Luke confronting Leia, and how sincere, and the moment was magical, even with the score. It was magical, and it eluded in the emotions and everything. So, hearing that and hearing her say, yes, I sense this, and also talking about, I remember she vaguely remembers like feelings and stuff. So when we go back to Revenge of the Sith and we see them born, she's the second born, and she's held closer to Padme as well. She's held closer. So I'm okay with that, and her having that force ability to really like kind of instinctively remember, from a baby, because we have to remember who these kids come from, and that's Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
So, and that's how I see that scene.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Ords Board?
Well, the whole Endor, all of that. It was a very different scene from what we were used to with Star Wars. It wasn't as sterile, like with there's a lot of metal, desert with nothing much to it. It was just a very different scene to see our characters in. And as far as the whole scene with C-3PO and all those, it was just interesting to see some primitiveness inside of this, that like people within the galaxy still existed in a natural way, sort of.
Yeah.
And I think what it does is it culminates to this moment, or this realization that, or this moral that, it doesn't really matter how big you are. If you work together, you can accomplish anything, no matter the size. At least that's what I remember getting from this, was like, wow, these little teddy bears, these cute little teddy bears, like
Murder
bears.
They were destroying chicken walkers. They were destroying all this stuff, man. They were, so it was just cool to see that. And you didn't need technology to win against the Empire.
That's true.
I was going to say, can I add one more thing that we're probably missing? Is basically when they're carrying Luke and all them back from being captured, the Ewoks, and how Luke was like telling C-3PO again to pretend like you're, a god or whatever, and how he uses the Force to lift up C-3PO and, cleverly gets them out of that situation as well. So I thought that, and again, that was a comedy, but also we got to see Luke's growth as well.
Yeah.
So.
But the main question, because he went to the Ewoks thing, but I wanted to get your take on Luke's, revealing their heritage.
Oh yeah. It was very like romantic, not in like a weird way with those two, but there was just mysticism. It kind of, the realization is just like she kind of knew, almost like, she kind of knew, and it was a moment that like we had to have, but it came and went. The pacing of it was good. I think the timing of when they dropped that moment, then which led to that moment with Han Solo and Leia in the trees, that really beautiful moment where like she finally can let her guard down with Solo. And we realize maybe Solo's not the total scumbag we thought he was.
No. As a matter of fact, he had so many great qualities buried under the thing as a smuggler. You know, he was mysterious and this, that, whatever. But once he gave that heart to Leia, and once because they was at each other's throat, it was almost like a New Hope. They can't stand each other. Now all of a sudden we had Jedi. They're pretty much man and wife at this point.
And it was nice. It was nice to see Solo have a little jealousy there, like, well, I won't stand in the way.
There's, if you go back in the real origin story about him, there's a reason why he was the way he was.
Right.
He got screwed over.
Yeah.
Bria Theron.
He was very self-protective, and he meets Luke and he meets Leia, and they're unguarded. They're not afraid to reveal how they feel about things. And that is a very big thing for him, because if you know, when you think about him at the end of Paradise Snare, and he's going to go to the academy, he's going to do something to be a respectable man.
Yeah.
And then you get into the next book, and he saved a Wookiee, and they canned him. So everything he dreamed about when he's running away from Gary Shrek and all that, it was cut out completely because he did the right thing.
That's right. That's right.
And that's who Han really is.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing here is you're seeing the actual real man, unafraid, being who he wanted to be. And that really is. I mean, that to me, you know, people can argue, but that to me was a big thing. You put all that together.
That's right.
Yeah, and I like to, and I'm going to expand on Stephanie's talk about the Han Solo trilogy, is that in the book, and I think it is the middle one there, maybe the Rebel Dawn, but Han does talk about wanting to become, you know, a respectable man and wanting to become a father and have children and, you know, and all that. So that's expanded on because of his situation and how he was basically, and we don't know exactly what happened with his parents and his situation when he was found by Shrike, but he does have a well-known name, and that Shrike did benefit from that. And that's why he kept him in as a, you know, part of his crime ring. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. Bara J, your impression, well, actually your thoughts on Luke finally revealing their heritage towards Leia.
So, or when he finally reveals the heritage, I, in a way, like how the scene was set up, because he doesn't come right out and tell her, "You're my sister," or anything like that. He kind of starts like how Obi-Wan and Yoda were.
Right.
Starts off slow, and like, oh yeah, by the way, he gets to the end. Like my sister has it, and well, who else could that be? Who else could that be? Pretty much. But he starts out with, you know, first revealing that Vader is his father. So he's basically like getting the biggest shock out of the way to Leia. Like now, it's, you know, I'm not like revealing to you that I have a personal connection to the second in command to, like, you know, the Empire, pretty much. And then she even at one point tells him to run away because he's telling her, I have to go confront him.
Yeah.
I have to go by myself. I can't bring you guys with me. And like in her mind, wanting to protect him in a way, she's telling him like, why, you know, just run away. Like, you know, if he can feel you here, then just go. Pretty much. And he says, well, no, I can't. Not only do I have to confront him, I still feel good in him. So she's processing that as well because she saw him stand by while her planet was blown up. And she's had to deal with him fighting him. And now you have her sort of comrade in arms telling her, they're still good in this guy. I feel they're still good in this guy.
But but Leia's force abilities was obviously is there.
Yeah.
It just wasn't tapped enough to know to sense the things that Luke sensed in him.
So he's building up. He's building it up to the point where he says, the force is strong in my family. You know, my father has it, I have it, and my sister has it. And that's kind of the final blow, for one of a better way of putting it, to the truth. Where he's building up, okay, that we are related. and Leia's realizing that she's known this the entire time, and now it's kind of like Luke's revelation on Dagobah, where the Force is like oh yeah, like the truth was always there, and now the Force is helping push that truth out into the open.
That's probably why her shock
happened with Leia.
Yeah, that's probably why her shocked, like she was stunned and looked down and then came up, and I've always known. Terminus with the $2 super chat. Hail Presidente, much love to you and the panel. Terminus, God bless, sir. Thank you for the $2 super chat. And behind it, and I wanted, like I said, I'm specifically trying to touch on like milestone type scenes, because that revelation was one. But what he said when he was leaving her, I have to try, because he sensed that thing, knowing that he found out that's his son, knowing that Darth Sidious lied to him, all that. It was so much between the 3 years we waited to get Jedi. Anakin pretty much had to process knowing that he was told that he killed his own wife, and now he's looking at the proof of the lie that Darth Sidious said, knowing that his wife lived long enough to give birth to his son. And he's literally a full young adult with a lightsaber, but being a Jedi, what he's supposed to be. And that's the mind that what Stephanie she got cut off there. And that's the mind-blowing shit in and of itself. But again, the whole connective tissue. Now he feels the goodness in his father, probably for the first time in anything, because now it's all about Anakin. Now we go back, even though Return of the Jedi is Luke's coming of age, but the overall picture, because we got the prequels, it's still Anakin's story. Now Anakin's whole arc, his final arc, not to overshadow Luke, but his whole final arc is now going to be played out through his son. And this comes back to the most important scene in my head in terms of the connection between prequels and OT, is that Luke is finally confronting his father. Guys caught him, and it's like, this is the one rebel. He only had this on him. I asked him, but he said he was alone. And Darth Vader, Anakin, at this point, looking at the lightsaber, looking at Luke, and Luke looking dead at him. Like, I know who you are. And then they walking along, and he said it. I know, Father. He said, oh, so you accepted the truth. And then the thing that stinged him, I accepted the truth that you was once Anakin Skywalker, my father. He literally almost exploded behind that, because he made him remember. So, Mara Jade, I want you to take me through that scene. Because it's a pretty important scene in terms of dialogue, the whole bit.
It's very important because for multiple reasons. One of which is now you're starting to see the internal struggle of Anakin Skywalker. You see now the split where Anakin, him being Anakin Skywalker, is starting to come forward, because at one point he says to Luke, that name means nothing to me. That name means nothing to me. When Luke says, when he says, you were once Anakin Skywalker, sort of situation. Vader is at that point. It's like when someone's trying to convince themselves that they enjoy something, or that something is like the truth, even though reality is smacking them in the face, saying, "No, this is not it." You can see that in Vader, with him saying, that name means doesn't mean anything to me at this point, and trying to still, in a way, I would say bring Luke to the dark side, but say no, Anakin's dead. Anakin's dead, pretty much, at this point. And Luke is like, no, I still sense the good in you. I'm still sensing you as my father in there. You might have been trying to bury him. You might have buried him deep down, but now he's starting to break free of the hold Sidious had on him.
Right. Ords?
Well, I remember when I was younger watching this and noticing that, even with Darth Vader's mask and everything, you almost knew what he was feeling. With the voice acting, and the way he did say that name means nothing to me, it almost had that hint of like, I'm saying this just to say it to you, like he was unsure of it.
Yeah.
So that's really the impact with me, was how, again, that next level Luke, man, like just walking right up to Vader and being like, "What's up?" You know, like, here I am.
He was calm too, like hell. He was just like walking in, even though that banter was going on. He was like smooth.
Yeah, he's like, you wanted me here, now I'm here. What's up? And then you know, just again, Vader, like I think that confidence kind of shook Vader a little bit. Again with that one line, you know, that name means nothing to me. Like when really, like, you know, it does. Mm-hmm. I mean, because the connection to your son is more so. I mean, and here's the thing: I'm surprised it took Vader that long to snap. As much as the Emperor put Vader through the, you know, his entire existence as a Sith. Mm-hmm. I mean, he tortured him, and so yeah, it's like Luke saw all of that and knew how he felt about the Emperor. But the entire time, Vader didn't think he had a choice, because everything he loved was taken from him. And now we have this introduction of the thing that reminds him of the only thing he ever loved, which was Padme, and his mom, of course. But you know, the women in his life have died, and you know, so it was a shorter scene. I think it was a shorter scene, right? That was like it was pretty short. Yeah. So, but it was just seeing that, like knowing that Vader had some kind of emotion in there after Luke calls him out, and then you hear the hesitation in the voice. It was a very, very big impact on me as a kid. Like, wow, Luke had this impact on this like brooding, evil bad guy. So
it almost made him feel vulnerable, knowing that, because he had his back to him. Yep. Like he was almost ashamed to face his son, knowing that now he knows the truth. And because he sensed Luke's power, I mean, there is so many layers in that short scene that just literally blows my mind, because of the added knowledge of the prequels of his life. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Stephanie, because that, like I said, walk me through that scene in your head, because of how Luke's maturity facing the man that nearly killed him in Empire Strikes Back.
You got to go back to Empire to understand that when he says, "No, I am your father," that was as big a thing for him to say himself as it was for him to say to Luke, and for Luke to hear it.
Right.
Because then it becomes reality. Then he has to face it. Then he has to face Anakin. He has to face everything that Anakin had been, that Anakin lost. Okay. So when you get to the end of Empire and Falcon takes off, he doesn't, Piet's going, shit, he's going to kill me. He walks away from him. He puts his head down and walks away from him. This is where he starts to turn away from the dark side, and it's a slow process for him. So we get to the scene between him and Luke. If you look at the entire thing leading up to this, basically the Emperor's ordering him around like a step and fetch. Mm-hmm. He interrupts the Emperor with his other retainers. The Emperor gets pissed off at him. I wanted you to stay with the fleet, and basically he was treating Lord Vader like he was nobody, and when you think about what Vader's thinking as he's confronted with Luke, bringing up his name, Padme, I was told I killed my wife. My son is standing right here. All right, that bastard lied to me. And that is a big thing. Yeah. Now, Vader didn't love the Emperor, but this is, I think, that the instance when he's faced with all this, that the idea of ridding himself of this heinous thing that has been around his neck, pulling him down, lying to him about things that he never did, is probably getting pretty big in his mind. Mm-hmm. And he also is confronted with the fact that Luke is right. And he'd been struggling with Anakin since, "No, I am your father."
Yeah.
It's a very powerful scene, I think.
Yeah. That was the moment where he turns on the Emperor, basically, because like you said, like, a lot of people say, "Oh, I like Empire because the bad guys win," but did they really though? Like, now I'm thinking about how you put that in perspective.
I don't really. Well, I mean, like just knowing the graphic novels that are set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, like nerd coming out. That's technically not the moment he starts turning against Sidious, but that is the moment, like Steph said, that Anakin is starting to come out.
Yeah.
That is the moment that Anakin is now starting to fight for control over Lord Vader.
Yeah.
Because in the Vader series in 2015, that's set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, Vader does find out the name of the rebel pilot who blew up the Death Star.
Yeah.
From Boba Fett, of all people, pretty much.
Yes.
And
yes.
And there's a scene that I wish we could have seen in like on a big screen, and that is after Boba Fett gives the name, because it means nothing to him. Boba Fett has no idea the real identity of Lord Vader. Boba Fett walks away, and Vader just stands there, and then the glass starts cracking. He's in one of the Star Destroyers, and the glass starts cracking up, and that's when he's like, "That bastard." He's like, that is like the point now where he's turning against Sidious.
Exactly.
OG Star Wars.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and nerd out on you guys on this as well.
Please.
So, all right. So you
Here you go. OG.
All right. All right. So those who don't like what I'm gonna say, okay, never mind. But okay. So this is the quote: "You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master." So that was a pivotal moment where he's very conflicted. Yes, we know, if you know the EU, him knowing that he has his son out there, that he survived, that's when Anakin started coming and started bubbling up. But this scene right here, and this is the transformation not only for Vader back into Anakin, but it's also Luke's transformation in his hero's journey, because he's conquered both worlds, right? And he's conquering the underworld right now, and he's going to come out as a Jedi transformed. And so Luke begins to break Vader down by using psychology. And he does do that on the Emperor too, as well, in the throne room when they have their little banter. And so he sees we see Luke calm and collected still. You still see a little bit of doubt, but you see more of a maturity in him now.
Right.
And sure, because he senses that good in his father, in Vader. So because of that, that's what gives him the confidence to keep, chiseling at that structure to bring his father out. And so finally Vader has his weapon and he ignites it, and he's like, oh, so your training is complete. You are as powerful as the Emperor says. And when you go back to the comics for Return of the Jedi, they are Sidious and Vader are fearful of Luke because of how strong he is, of how strong his raw power is and what he's going to become. And that's even in the comic when we come into the throne room scene right there. And after their banter, and they send Luke off to the Emperor, and Vader's on the platform by himself, Vader basically looks outside to Endor Moon Forest, and you can see, like you said, you can't see his face, but you can feel and you can sense that remorse and that conflict and that Anakin coming up and that transformation beginning. And so that's the very pivotal moment until we get to the throne room, when that all starts coming out towards the end.
Okay. Right now, I know that my VP is going to have to step away. I got a $2 super chat from Terminus ES. $2 super chat. Wow, Mara. Nice biceps. Oh, man. My VP is not to play with, man. So, if something happened to me, she gonna come out here, sip strong, and lay it down on you bastards, But yes, my beloved VP is going to have to step away. She has a live stream with the magnificent and always benevolent Lethal Lightning, one of the horsemen.
I love that.
I know.
He scares me. Okay.
He's a big teddy bear at heart. He's a little rough around the edges. But she's getting ready to go get to her stream. So after my stream, I want all of y'all, God willing, to go over to my VP stream and just enjoy the madness that she's gonna bring to Lethal, and You know how lethal is, so there's gonna be comedy all around. But before she leaves, Mara J, please tell all our audience who are you and where can they find you.
Well, before I leave, I know I'm going to be jumping the gun into like the third act here, but I know I mentioned a little bit ago that I was asked about my take on the throne room scene.
Yeah.
Question I was asked, incidentally, by Lethal Lightning, like when he wanted my take, is why do you think Vader stopped Luke from killing the Emperor? Because if you think about it, Vader, at least from between A New Hope and Empire until into between Empire and Return of the Jedi,
Right.
basically wanted Sidious to die, was ready to kill Sidious, and at one point he was ready to ask his son to rule the galaxy with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asked this question, and I'm like, okay, this might be a hot take, but this is how I read the scene, and that is, Vader stopped Luke because Sidious said, "Strike me down, and your journey to the dark side will be complete." And Vader igniting his lightsaber, it wasn't Vader igniting his lightsaber, it was Anakin igniting the lightsaber and stopping his son from killing Sidious and completing the journey to the dark side. So yes, they did duel as a result of that, because it's still Vader. It's like Vader's still there. Anakin still, they're still fighting in his internal conflicts, is struggling against each other. But the minute that lightsaber ignited, that was Anakin. Stopping his son.
Yeah. All right. That's part of the third. Don't start. Yeah. That's going to be the third act of what we're talking about. Right.
I will segue off of hers right there because I totally agree, and I think Steph does too. It's yeah. So
don't worry. We gonna get to all of that.
I just wanted to give that opinion since I'm jumping off before the third act.
I know, don't want you to leave, but yeah, you got.
My stream is at 10.
Here you go. Tell Lisa to do it by himself until you get. No, I'm not going to do it.
I made the link. Can't do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I had to let his ass in, so he would. But so basically, yeah. So that was my impression, at least of part of that scene of the third act, without going into details of the whole entirety of that scene.
Yeah.
But as far as my channel, it's Jade Shadows in the parentheses. That's my channel. I cover mainly pop culture. I do talk about Star Wars on occasion, although only when generally I'm asked about what I consider good Star Wars, and that is the OT, PT, and EU. I don't. Anything dealing with whatever Disney's doing now, I generally don't talk about. So a lot of
you ain't into Ben Swallow.
No. I just ate. I don't want to think about that. But I've been mainly talking about pop culture, right now currently DC, because that's been in the news a lot lately. And I, like you, Abu Nath, I was the champion. Went away when I released the Snyder Cut. We're getting the Snyder Cut, so now waiting for the Snyder Cut to be released. But that's me. Anyway, you can find me also on Twitter under OG Mara Jade. If you don't follow me there, I generally smack down SJWs and feminists and get people to block me, trolls to block me somehow. I don't know. But yeah, that's my channel and my Twitter in a nutshell, essentially. So I guess whenever the stream's done here, if you want to come out and check out the live stream I do with Lethal Lightning, it'll be going from 10 until whenever.
Gotcha.
All
right. Well, my love, thank you for stopping by. Definitely check her out. And like I said, we couldn't have this whole live stream. I'm so grateful that you came in here and hung out with us for as long as you can. And like I said, knock your stream out the park. Everybody hopefully will get over there, and myself included, while I'm cleaning up. And yeah. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye.
Now before we get to the last part, I am actually doing good right now. Now we gotta get to episode 3, where Anakin finally gave in to his rage and his hate. You want to hear it? Let's do it. Right now, goddammit. Do it for daddy. Oh my god, my boomer moment. I blame drunk 3PO. Drunk 3PO. He makes me into that. He always do that to me. Okay, let's do it. This is where everything went wrong with Anakin. Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. The Clone Wars rages throughout the galaxy. Word got to Anakin and Obi-Wan. The fighting found its way over to Coruscant. The Chancellor was kidnapped by the Separatists, led by the leader, General Grievous. They got in their fighters, jumped to hyperspace, hoping to save the Chancellor before it's too late. 3 years of fighting made them battle hard. Obi-Wan was stoic, but Anakin had scars. They got to the flagship, searched for Palpatine. They sensed that Darth Tyrannus was on the scene. They found them both and they pressed their attack. But Darth Tyrannus was good at fighting back. Obi-Wan was hurt and Anakin was stressed. Darth Tyrannus gave the young Jedi a test. He said, you have hate and anger in your chest. Unleash it now or I'll put you to rest. Anakin's rage was something to see as he brought Darth Tyrannus back to his knees. The Chancellor was pleased as he told Anakin to use your powers and bring him to his end. Tyrannus was dead and Grievous had fled. The war was over once we had his head. Anakin returned to see the woman of his dreams, Padme Amidala, his wife and his queen. She said, my love, we're expecting a child. Anakin froze and he didn't even smile. He looked in her eyes and he saw her concern, for this is something the Jedi must never learn. Grievous knew he was the only one left. Darth Sidious said, put your fears to rest. My next apprentice is simply the best. The war will be over once he's on the set. Meanwhile, Anakin had another bad dream, one that had his wife crying and the baby scream. Woke up sweating like what's going on. Padme held him and said, baby, what's wrong? I had a dream you died in childbirth. I had many dreams, but this one truly hurts. She said, Anakin, I will be alright. Can Obi-Wan help? He said, not on your life. Then he gets the call to see Palpatine. The Chancellor said, I need you on my team to be my representative to the Jedi, to make sure that they always comply. Mace Windu said, you can have a seat, but you're not a master, so you can never speak. Anakin said, that ain't fair, hold your tongue, take the seat, there's a war to be won. The meeting was over, Anakin was pissed. Obi-Wan said, calm down and listen to this. We need you to spy on the Chancellor now. He's been in power too long and we don't know how. Anakin said, yeah, I can't believe you want me to do this when he's been good to me. I know it sucks for you to be the spy. You're doing it for the Republic and the Jedi. Panicking, Ted came out to the opera house so they could all figure out what Grievous' next move and where he could be. And then he told Anakin a little story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, Lord of the Sith, can bring people back from out the abyss. Anakin knew that he couldn't resist. Could the Jedi learn this? No, only the Sith. Back at the Jedi Temple, here we go again. Once more, the Jedi is straight for the win. Obi-Wan had the Utapar to go track General Grievous to find out where he's at. Yoda headed Kashyyyk to head the Wookiees, make sure the Separatists never succeed. While all of this was going on, Palpatine revealed that he was Darth Sidious, the no one could feel. Anakin was shocked. I'm bringing you in. Darth Sidious said, yo, hold on, my friend. My master was Darth Plagueis the Wise. He taught me the secret of eternal life. I can teach you the secret to save your wife. If the Jedi kills me, she'll lose her life. The dark side of the Force is his to command. The entire Clone Wars was part of his plan to wipe out the whole order of the Jedi. Darth Bane's grand plan has now been realized. Most of the Jedi had lost their lives. Obi-Wan was the one that had survived. Yoda did too, as he headed back quick. Bail Organa picked them both up in his ship. Mace Windu defeated the Sith easily, disarmed them, and he begged, don't kill me. Anakin came and said, I need him alive. Mace Windu said, not this time, little guy. He controls the Senate and the courts too. There's no way in hell that we're ever gonna lose. Now come the moment of truth, he must decide something that Anakin cannot deny. Will he stand up to be a great Jedi, or will he do what he must to keep his wife alive? Not even a choice for him to make. Chop off Windu's hand, and that sealed his fate. Darth Sidious gave the killing blow as Mace Windu flew out the window. The Dark Lord saw Anakin on his knees, christened him Darth Vader, rise and succeed. No one at the temple was left alive. Not even the younglings survive. Yoda and Obi-Wan now decide that both of the Sith Lords now gotta die. Obi-Wan told Padme he has to go. The dark side of the Force now hides his soul. Where did he go? She said, I don't know, but she went off to see him on the low. Found out the truth of how he behaved. Anakin then thought that he was betrayed. So Obi-Wan behind her on a stage, and then he flew into a deep black rage. Anakin rushed to kill Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan struck back, and then it was on. Yoda told the Sith Lord, your reign is done, and after this there shall be only one. Darth Sidious cracked a wide-ass smile, cause this was the fight he wanted for a while. Between the four men, the light and the dark threatened to tear the galaxy apart. Anakin, though, made a fatal mistake, one that Obi-Wan moved on with haste. He chopped off his legs and his remaining hand left him burning, dying in the sand. Yoda fought hard but was forced to retreat. The dark side of the Force could not be beat. Obi-Wan took Padme and then she gave birth to Luke and Leia, the salt of the earth. She passed away saying Anakin is still good, something that Obi-Wan never understood. Anakin once again cheated death. The dark side of the Force was all that was left of the beautiful gift that was the light. For he had believed he killed his own wife. Everything that was good he cannot stand, as he was truly more machine than man. Yoda told Obi-Wan to take Luke back to Tatooine and teach him the truth. He told Bail Organa to bring Leia home to Alderaan until she fully grown. The revenge of the Sith was finally complete, even though the New Hope on Tatooine was currently asleep. And you know who that New Hope was? The one and only Luke Skywalker. But we're not done yet. We are not done yet. Now, we are finally heading over to A New Hope, where we meet Luke Skywalker for the first time. Yup. And this, we went from a very sad ending to a very hopeful beginning. And let's talk about that hopeful beginning with your good friend and mine, Mr. Luke Skywalker. There we go. You know, this is where it all began, ladies and gentlemen. 43 years. Star Wars, the movie that changed it all. Oh, baby. A New Hope, Episode 4. This was the movie that changed it all. The blockade runner came through hyperspace. The Star Destroyer moved in with haste, trying to recover the Death Star plans that were stolen by Jen Erso and her band. They invaded the ship, wiped out the crew. All of a sudden, Darth Vader came through. Everyone bowed down before the Dark Lord. He walked with authority through the corridors. Princess Leia had to think real quick to get out of this jam before she took a hit. Before she got captured, she had an idea. Give the plans to someone who has no fear. She placed the plans into little R2, who escaped in the pod. There's nothing to lose. C-3PO was nervous as hell. R2-D2 said chill out, we will be well. Travel through the desert, they was both all alone. Jawas ambushed them, they all in their zone. Made a detour, took them to the Lars home. Had to get their money, that's how they will roam. Owen Lars, a farmer with no fear, called out Luke Skywalker, now he's a peer. Get these droids clean up on the herd. I was going to Tashi Station, not another word. Luke was home, cleaning up little R2 when Princess Leia's message finally came through. The Empire's here and they at our throats. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Get the plans to my father, he'll know what to do. The message was over and Luke was confused. I don't know Obi-Wan, but I know old Ben. Hopefully he'll know what's up, maybe he's a friend. Ben told Luke that he was Obi-Wan, for in the Clone Wars way before he was born, he said his father was a great Jedi Knight and a great friend who loved what was right. He was killed by a Sith Lord named Darth Vader, betrayed his father and he was a straight hater. Learn the ways of the Force and be like your dad. Luke said no, cause my uncle will be mad. Gotta get home before Uncle Owen goes berserk. When he got home, both of them was in the dirt. He had no one else. Now, what could he do? Time to go back to Bend and roll with his crew. They got to Mos Eisley and ran into a dude. By the looks of him, he was too cool for school. His name was Han Solo. Chewbacca was his mate. Need a ride to Alderaan. There's no time to waste. The Empire arrived and they barely escaped. The Millennium Falcon jumped to hyperspace. Princess Leia was taken. The Grand Moff talking. The big man on campus, and he was steady barking. Tell me what I wanna know, or your planet dies. She said, damn Tatooine, and he says, hey, goodbye. She said, I told you everything. He said, well, I lied. Like you didn't know I'm one of the bad guys. The Death Star blew Alderaan to bits, and back to the cell Princess Leia had to sit. The Falcon was picked up by the tractor beam to the Death Star, where they had to come clean. But they was in disguise and they hatched a plan to rescue Princess Leia and be on the land. Ben Kenobi disabled tractor beam. He was on his way back, and guess who he seen? Darth Vader chillin', all in the back, lightsabers drawn. He was ready to attack. At last we meet. Now the circle is complete, and all that's left is to leave you in defeat. If you strike me down, my power is supreme. The Force will intervene and destroy all your dreams. The lightsaber battle was straight off the wall. Unfortunately, Obi-Wan had to fall. Our heroes got away as they flew the friendly skies. Got the princess to safety, now it's time to ride. Assemble the troops, no time to be cute. Get the fighters up, and it's time to raise the roof. Flying to the Death Star, we're in for a fight. The Force will be with us cause we're all in the right. Luke Skywalker was in Red 5. The voice of Obi-Wan said you will survive. Use the Force, let it guide your way. He blew up the Death Star and saved the day. The party was on the very next day. Medals for everybody that had the princess slave. Luke Skywalker was a hero to his name. Han Solo gained more respect than fame. Even though Darth Vader made his escape, at least for now, the galaxy was safe. Hold up that. Oh, yeah. So now, Luke Skywalker is the hero. But now we're getting to the most important act of all, Act 3. The Act 3 where we're basically going to start wrapping it up, the big Dukaroo, as people like to say when it comes to the third act. And I want to start this off knowing that we're going into the throne room where Luke and his father, Darth Vader, finally goes to the throne room and meets Darth Sidious, the big baddie, the Emperor. And he's pretty much telling Luke, you know, he has to obey his father. You already know that when you watch the movie, you know that if as badass as Darth Vader is, there was somebody bigger and badder than him. Even though he kind of dwarfs him in size, you know, knowing that his master is powerful in the dark side of the Force, but we didn't know to what extent. But being that they came up and he said, I look forward to completing your training, young Skywalker, and just with a slight nod, using the mastery of what he has with the Force to show Luke that he's in complete control, you know. And then the Sith eyes and the whole bit, and Luke just had this look of like disdain and contempt for him, like I'm not afraid of you, but in a roundabout way, he did bring the fear out of everybody that was watching, that this man was evil incarnate, and he was gourding Luke throughout the entire exchange. I'll be dead, but you know, you'll be dead, and with me along with you. And you know, he was really trying to, you know, pose like he was brave, but unfortunately, Darth Sidious had every answer for him, and Darth Vader looked at him like, it's pointless to resist. Why are you resisting? And he said, everything that's happened is according to my desire. Basically, the mind games. So I'm wanting your impression of, just for me myself, that whole exchange before they got to, you know, to the shield generator, and that whole fight on Endor and stuff, which was pretty badass, but it pales in comparison to what goes on up there at at the Death Star in that throne room, because that was where the galaxy's whole future rests at. So Ords Board, I want you to take me through that first. Your impressions, what you were thinking was going down in terms of who's mastering the Force, the whole bit.
Well, yeah, it's definitely one of those scenes that's scary. It's dark. The look of the Emperor, the makeup was well done. It was a lot of back and forth, and you were right. Like when you talk about the confidence that the Emperor has, the confidence that Luke has, and I think, and this is just me speculating. When I think about that, Darth Vader was like, "Well, if I can turn Luke, I'll have my son either way."
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he realized through this whole exchange that my son is a true Jedi. He's not going to give into this. I mean, Luke throws his saber away. So he sees that the only way I get my son back is by doing what I need to do, the right thing.
Right.
And I think once he realizes that, again, that assure, or that how's the word I'm looking for? Luke was so positive that Anakin was there, and all it was going to take was Luke to stand his ground to pull out Anakin, and of course it works. I think Vader and Anakin communicate. Obviously, they battle each other through his entire existence. I mean, Vader is tormented. It's part of what makes him who he is as Vader. But I think he realizes, he's like, there's no way I'm going to have my son unless I do the right thing here.
Yeah.
And then that decision is made. So I'm going to be getting off here in a minute because I got to hopping over on Mary's stream doing shenanigans tonight. But yeah, no, it's really kind of how that comes up. And I really like the point that OG made with that was Anakin with the lightsaber that stopped Luke from, turning to the dark side. Like that, looking at it that way is so beautiful.
I never even thought of it like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's like just makes that moment more beautiful, like, wow, like he stopped him from going the distance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like Vader knew what was about to conspire, it's just crazy, man. It's nuts. So that kind of blew my mind. So thank you for that. That's really cool. That's what I love about Star Wars, man. You can always find something else in it, something more. There's always a deeper layer to it. So that's really cool, man. But beautiful scene. Who doesn't love to see lightsaber battles? The silhouette of the two. You really get to see Luke's ability. I mean, Luke is like, even from the scene when he's talking with Vader. What we was it the third act we talked about, or the second part of the second act? Anyway, Luke talks like a Jedi. He's very calm, very collected, very kind of like to the point. All the way up to this final scene with the Emperor. And I think the Emperor knows this, but he's feeding him he's giving him these answers to try to keep him on his toes, to try to keep him in that unease, that unsure, unsure mentality.
Yeah.
Just to throw him off guard, because it becomes a mental game at that point. Everybody in this room is so damn powerful. It becomes a mental game. How can I gain the mental edge over the opponent? So yeah, that's just how I feel about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You can get ready to head out now, brother? Or
I got a minute or two. I'm not like any crazy.
Oh, okay, good. Stephanie?
Gee, let's see. The throne room. First of all, I really do like what OG had to say. It was spot on. It's kind of the connection to when Anakin had Dooku's lightsaber in his hand, his own lightsaber in his hand, and he's holding the balance of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. To me, watching that, it's.
Just before you go on, wait a minute. Before you go on, John Williams' music, like,
it was
just
perfect.
on point.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's perfect. But it's somewhat disturbing watching a father and son trying to kill each other. But that's what Star Wars is about. It's about dark side, light side, good versus evil. in a way that we hadn't seen before. And when you watch the movie the first time, you don't realize that this isn't the Vader that we knew in A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the Vader that we thought we knew at the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back. This is, if he had been that Vader, he could have killed Luke. He would have won.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not in it. He's not in the fight anymore. And you could tell. And when Luke throws the lightsaber away, and this is right before. This is after he takes Vader's arm off,
Mm-hmm.
and then he stops himself and looks at his hand and goes, "Shit."
History was about to repeat itself.
I'm a Jedi like my father before.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, Anakin doesn't have a choice. He has to come in there. He is gonna get out of jail free card right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because Luke brought up the word Jedi and his father in the same breath.
In the same breath.
And the part where when you're thinking about Luke toying with the dark side, Vader really gets him with Leia. Sister, you have a sister. Perhaps if you don't turn, she will. And Luke loses his shit. Because in that way he's like Anakin. Anakin wanted to protect the people he loved.
That he loved.
Anakin was loyal. And that's Luke. And I think that's part of the personality bond. And even though when I look at Luke
Mm-hmm.
as a Jedi as he is in this scene, he is more like a Qui-Gon Jinn in a way.
Really?
In a way, or maybe not, but he is not like Anakin. There's something different about him that is different. That is.
That's an interesting take. I never really thought of Luke could be mirroring Qui-Gon Jinn in terms of
just the way. Well, that green lightsaber. Where did he get the crystal?
Mm-hmm.
Did he go to? Because we know he went to Obi-Wan's.
Maybe that could have been
in the EU. In Shadows of the Empire, he did make it. It's a synthetic green crystal. So
it is a synthetic. Okay. Wouldn't it be badass had it been the actual crystal of Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber? Well, but that's just my fantasy thing though. So don't.
I have a different take on that, but we'll discuss that later.
Oh, okay.
I kind of like that idea too. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, if you look at the way he looked at the Jedi after all this was over,
mm-hmm.
and his rebuilding the Order, it wasn't the Jedi that Yoda ran. It's very interesting. It's very, when you start thinking about why Qui-Gon didn't sit on the council.
Right.
It's because
he could have sat. He could have sat on the Jedi Council too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was because I'm not going to follow all the rules, because they don't mean anything. There's all this meaningless crap to what the Force really is.
Yeah.
But to me, that was kind of like that and kind of not. But it wasn't like Anakin. Anakin was more brazen, more almost like a rogue. He when he walked, he swaggered.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke doesn't swagger. He just is. But I mean that whole scene there, and the transformation in Vader,
mm-hmm.
because he's not into the fight.
Right.
He wasn't into the fight. It wasn't because he lost any power. He didn't want to kill his son.
Yeah, that was plain and simple right there. OG, I see that you got your notes together.
Yeah, so we see in here when Luke is first brought to Sidious.
Oh, wait a minute, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I just happened to look down and I saw John talk.
I didn't want to be rude.
Oh man, but like I said, before we get going, Ords, thank you so much for being here with us, man. All this time. Sorry we started off late, but I'm so glad I was able to get your take on these things. Let all these great people know who you are and where they can find you. You know, 'cause John Talks looked like he ready to kick somebody's ass. Now I just saw Midnight's Edge. Yeah, I'm just seeing Midnight's Edge. Hey there, Tom. How you doing, brother? Oh man, yeah. So
All right. Well, I am Ords Board. You guys can find me at youtube.com/Ords Board. You guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the same handle. You guys can also find my work at Omni Lucid Media Games. If you guys like board games, if you guys like Vikings, come check out Omni Lucid Media Games. You guys can find me on the Drunk 3PO channel from time to time. And we've got a lot coming up on the Drunk 3PO channel, so stay tuned. Anyway, Abunas, thank you so much for having me.
No, God bless you, sir. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Dude.
I'm Mary.
So happy to hear it.
you.
I know, Mary. I'm so sorry, honey. You was on her channel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, honey. $10 super chat. I love you too, Mary. Thank you so much for the super chat, darling.
She paid you to get rid of me.
Exactly. you're kind of cheap. Only $10.
Yeah, right. Hey, man, I do what I can for people. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. Anytime you need anybody, just let me know, man.
You got it, brother. God bless
All right,
you,
it was
man.
good
Have a
hanging
great
with you
evening.
guys.
And tell the missus I said hi, because I know she probably was in the chat. I probably
No,
missed her.
she
and
has
stuff.
been in the chat too.
Oh, she has
Yeah.
been in the chat. Okay.
I'll
we
be sure
love
to
Amber too.
I'll be sure to tell you said hi. All you guys. All right, so
Bye.
we'll see you guys on the other side.
You got it, brother.
Peace, guys.
Peace. All right. Now it's the treacherous three. Now it's those three. Now it's down to three.
Dun, dun,
Alora?
dun. All right, so here I go. So as I said before, this transformation, this whole thing has been a psychological warfare as well, or transformation as well.
Yeah.
And there is a force ability, and I can't think of the name, so it's not coming to me. And I was trying to find it so I can give the correct term for it. But it's basically a psychological force ability that is mostly dark side, but Jedi's also use that to persuade and convince. It's not mind trick, but it's called something else. So when we see Luke be introduced finally to the Emperor, because they have never really connected, we have that banter between them two, and Sidious says your confidence is your weakness, and then Luke tells him your faith in Luke tells Sidious confidence is your weakness, and Sidious tells him your faith in your friends is yours. So we see that psychological mind game is going on as well, because like I said in the comics, Sidious, or the Emperor, and Vader fear Luke because of his innate raw power and what he is to become. And in a sense, when you look at the whole throne room scene, Vader and the Emperor are fighting over Luke in a sense as well, because Sidious wants Luke, Vader wants Luke, and so we see that, and so we see that psychological warfare. And so when he really gets at Luke, and Luke is watching the battle outside in space with the fleet and stuff. And so, the Emperor is provoking him, and then he's like, yeah, you want that lightsaber, take it, da-da-da.
Oh my God, that would literally creep me out. Just the way he's feeling the light, like he knows he wants it so bad to try to kill him. Oh, that drove me nuts.
And then you could see the torment in Luke, and you could see he wants to be out there with his friends, and he wants to do what's right. He's still unsure, but he still has that confidence. He's trying to harness the Force to stay cool as a Jedi should. And so finally he calls the saber to him, and you have Vader parrying against him and blocking Luke's lightsaber so that he doesn't transform, so he doesn't cross to the dark side. And and I have the same theory as Mara Jade as well about that right there. Part of that was also Anakin, because Vader wants Luke, but Anakin wants his family. That's how I see that.
Okay, I never looked at it like that.
Yeah, and so we're seeing two sides of one person now. We're seeing Vader and we're seeing Anakin. And so when Luke does that, and he's like, they start their confrontation and they start parrying, and then finally, after Vader throws his saber, damn quads. After Vader throws his saber at Luke, and when he force leaps onto the platform, and then Luke goes and hides. and they're talking again, and they're doing that psychological mind game again with each other, and he's reading Luke's mind, and he's like, oh, your sister, you have a sister. And that's when he really gets Luke. And this is a very interesting thing in here in the novel here. Basically, Luke thinks about, recollecting that Vader could have killed him, but did not in the dogfight over on the Death Star, and later in the lightsaber duel on Bespin. He even thought of Leia briefly now, too, of her, how Vader had her in his clutches once, had even tortured her, but didn't kill her. He winced to think of her agony, but quickly pushed that from his mind. The point was clear to him now, though so often so murky, there was still good in his father. So that was all that what Luke was thinking at that time when Vader just like bam, like basically he didn't need the saber to strike Luke in the heart. He read his mind and found out about Leia and said, I can turn her now. I'll just go after her since you're no good to me now.
Right.
And stuff. And so that too was a very huge pivotal moment as well, with not only Luke like kind of teetering to the dark side in a sense, because
he was caught off guard. He didn't expect him to say the things he said to get at Leia. And obviously Leia is the twin sister, so the potential for power in the Force is the same as Luke's.
Exactly. And now that Luke has a family, his family grew significantly since we've seen him in A New Hope. He has that I wouldn't say attachment, but that love. And he wants to protect her. He doesn't want any harm to her. So he kind of teeters in the dark side. And that's why he's wearing all black, because, we are seeing him transforming in his hero's journey. And he does have to kind of defeat the dark side in himself as well. And so at the end, when we see that flap flipped over to white, that means he's made this transformation, that he's staying good and he's staying as a Jedi. That you see that too when he throws the saber as well. When he's like, I am, a Jedi like my father before me. And so we see Vader's transformation from Vader all the way to Anakin. And then we see a little bit of Luke kind of in not in balance, trying to maintain the light side to overcome Vader as well. But he does use that energy and harness a little bit of that energy without falling to overcome Vader, to where he chops off his arm, and then he realizes, oh crap, this is what I could be. Seeing all that metal and the wires and stuff, and looking at his hand and seeing what he has gone through and what his father now it has become. He's like, if I don't learn how to harness my powers and stuff like a Jedi, I can easily become what my father had become. Right. And that's the pivotal moment. That's a pivotal moment for his transformation. And so he has no idea what Force lightning is, because he's never been trained on it. So he tosses his saber, declares who he is, makes the stance. Vader hears that, and that's the pivotal moment, just like Steph said. That's his pivotal moment right there of like, oh crap, I've lost my wife. This is basically bastard, I'm going to say, lied to me, said she was dead. I thought my child, and I didn't know I had two now. So now he's got two children, working on him, even though Leia's not there.
Right.
And so he has more reason to come out of the dark side and come out and transform. And Luke's love does that. And the Jedi, they had that attachment thing, but how I see it when we look into the lore is that Luke, or that the attachment is not love. Attachment is how you hold on to someone and make them a possession. You can still love something or someone without them being a possession. And that's what the Jedi of the old got wrong. Right. Because there was marriages in the past before the Order came and adopted that attachment part. And so that's what Luke is revealing to Vader or Anakin, that the love is not attachment. And that goes back to Attack of the Clone, where even Padme and Luke Padme and Anakin are talking on their way to Naboo, where Anakin says, love, we are Jedi are supposed to love. Basically, that short little talk when they're transporting and stuff. Yeah. And so this is what I love about this, is that we see both transformations. And so once Luke throws the saber and declares who he is and declares his love for his father and his dedication to being a Jedi and protecting the galaxy, has no idea what force lightning is. And this even goes back in Truce of Bakura, kind of admits, if I knew what force lightning is, I would have kept my saber. Basically, there's a scene in that.
Yeah.
But he didn't know because they didn't train him for that.
Can
He
you
wasn't trained for that.
Right. Can you imagine? And I want to get your take on this, Stephanie. That when after Luke threw the saber, and then the Sith lightning happened. Now Luke just pretty much dropped everything on him about Leia. Going to Anakin's head, Stephanie, and see how did he even try to process all of this in one shot that he told Darth Sidious that you see that man where that followed you? That's my father. He was a I mean, he laid it out.
Yeah.
I don't know what do you think could have been going in Anakin's head at that time?
Confusion, fear, bewilderment. I was lied to about all this, but of course Sidious didn't know about Leia till then either.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's the thing. So Leia's like a big revelation for everybody. It's like, what? But the
child support payment. Stephanie, look at this.
What?
Look at this.
But when you think about it, he's been trying to find Luke. He's had to say it, "I'm your father," to him out loud after he beat the shit out of him. His life is upside down right now, and in that moment, he's again reminded in a big way in front of Palpatine who he really is. And then Palpatine goes, "Well, you're gonna die then," and unleashes force lightning on Luke. And Vader gets up. Anakin gets up. He's looking around, and then he just goes, "I'm done with this. I'm done being your slave.
Yeah.
You lied to me.
Beautiful.
You've treated me like shit. You made me do all this stuff. You're dead." And he picked him up and he threw him over the thing.
Yeah.
And no more Palpatine. And in that moment, Anakin's journey from slave to Jedi, hero, back to slave, back to Jedi again was complete.
Yeah,
And
nice.
he brought balance to the Force, in that moment. And Luke, because Padme was the first to say, "There's good in him. I know there is." And she wasn't a Force sensitive.
She loved her husband.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is, when I think about that, maybe she had a little bit of that because she was carrying his kids, and maybe that's how she knew, because they were
deep on a level, knowing that she's bringing two very powerful force sensitive children into the world.
Yeah.
But I know she was already. I mean, the whole thing about the heartbroken and you dying. I'm bypassing all that. I'm trying to look at it on a deeper level. But Anakin, to me, knowing what he just heard his son say, faced the man that told him, "Kill your father and take your place at my side." He was already discarding Anakin, and Luke looked at him and said, "No, that's not happening." It was heartbreaking to see them fight, because when he said he was going to take Leia, and then Luke just went berserk. That whole exchange, and when they're clashing swords and John Williams' music it really hits you right here. And just seeing Anakin it's not even he's fighting. It was almost like he's so tired. He was so tired of just being at everyone else's will and not having a will of his own, his self-hatred. He carried that for so many years, all the things that he lost, and just seeing his son that his old master taught him, and just the fact of he's looking at Luke as the man that I should have been, and then the Sith lightning coming in, and he's saying, "Father, please help me." In the special editions, I get it. When he said no, because in my head, I played it off by looking at Anakin, looking at his son being killed, like he's replaying his entire life.
Yeah.
He's replaying his entire life from the time he left his mother, from the time he came back and tried to save her and he couldn't. When he stood on her grave and said, I will not fail you again, and I will, stay strong to my dying day." For everything he lost due to his selfishness at the worst possible moment, when Obi-Wan told him that I love you, you was the chosen one. Everything that went on, even the thing with Ahsoka, everything that touched him in a positive way in his life, that led up to this moment, to see the very reason he went to the dark side to save his family, and he's watching his master kill the very reason that he gave everything up. And that's when he picked him up. And that was my thinking and how Anakin's thought process was when he threw him down the shaft.
Yeah.
Even though he knew he was going to die.
I like what Artistic Lego Film says, and I do agree. Anakin
Wait a minute.
Artistic Lego Films. He sacrificed himself to avoid going to court. Or no, that's not the right one.
Child support payments.
No, that was no.
That's funny.
It's
But
Renee. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on.
it's who? Renee?
Anakin was able to save someone he cared about.
Here we go.
When he saved Luke from Palpatine. So basically, that's another thing. There is that Anakin's fall was one of the reasons Anakin's fall happened is because he wanted to save his loved ones from dying, and that
he could foresee the future. OG, he did it with his mother. He knew he had that same premonition with his wife, and he wasn't going to go through the same thing that he went with his mother.
Yeah. And so from that, Palpatine knew that. And so he used that as part of the seduction scenario to have Anakin fall. And so when that pivotal moment came, when Luke Skywalker was, screaming, "Father, please help me," when he's down on the ground and Sidious or the Emperor is, shooting the Force lightning at him, that was the moment he realized, I can save my loved one. I don't have to relive this. Right. I can prevent this, something that I've always wanted to prevent. And that simple thing was just basically taking action, self-action. And that's what he did. He took that action. He went against the dark side, against the manipulation and the mental psychology thing between him and Sidious. And he picked him up and he took him and threw him down that shaft, saving his son. And that's why I love Return of the Jedi. It's my favorite because we get to see both the arcs come through. We get to see
from both trilogies. Trilogies.
Mm-hmm. We get to see the redemption of Anakin. We get to see Luke's hero journey and him coming out of both the underworld, conquering both worlds and transforming into a Jedi. And that's what got me into the EU is that for Luke, because I wanted to see what he was going to do next. He came out as a Jedi. He came out victorious. He proved the Jedi wrong about redemption. He has redeeming qualities, and that's even shared in the EU. Mm-hmm. And he basically gave himself as a Jedi. He gave himself to protect the galaxy, and that was putting in front of the one that threatened the galaxy the most, and that's the Emperor.
Stephanie, Anakin's last word when Luke was trying to get him out of the Death Star. But he couldn't. But he already knew he was gone, and he told Luke, "Take off the mask." I after seeing the prequels, that scene in and of itself is a gut punch for me. It never really affected me before, like on a bigger scale. But that was before the prequels. I wanted to get your take on that very last scene with Anakin when he told Luke to take off the mask. It was almost like he came to terms.
That's all right. Let's see. When you're watching the movie, you're like, okay, Darth Vader's a good guy now. And when you're 15 years old or whatever, you're not in that deep of it. But that scene, is very powerful for many reasons. First off, okay, is he redeemed? He's forgiven from Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's quote unquote redeemed, but what does that mean? And then when you look at everything that he had done as Vader, what's the rest of the galaxy gonna think? What's Leia gonna think? What's Han gonna think? You know, and when you get into the EU, the one person that should have said, I don't want anything to do with this, Han, is the one that was like, so he's your father. He has absolutely no problem dealing with that himself, which is, you know, when you look at it, it's like, really? Because you think, man, you know, and it's Leia who's the one that has the hardest time forgiving him. Redemption is such a weird thing here, but Anakin is redeemed. He does come back as a Force ghost, and he does do what he's supposed to, which is bring balance to the Force by getting rid of Sidious. But the whole thing of him finally seeing somebody that cared about him with his own eyes before he died is very, it's very poignant. And I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to give everybody listening, give you a little trick to do. Here's what you do. Watch 4 and 5, then watch 1, 2, 3, and then 6. Okay? Because you'll see it the way we've been talking about it. It'll become very crystal clear what's going on there then. But it's very poignant. And then once we got his backstory, it's even more so. I mean, I don't necessarily get choked up about it. I'm more philosophical about it. It's still kind of hard to. It's one of those things where you're kind of like, Mr. Lucas, can you explain this to us? Because the whole redemption thing, after everything that happened, you know, and he isn't, and that's what it was about. But still, once it gets out there, what are people gonna think? You know? And that's a thing that scene where he talks to Luke and says, "Tell your sister you were right about me."
Right.
And he dies, and it's like, okay, what's next? Because that in itself ends up a conundrum. All right, you just opened up a whole new thing for everybody to have to deal with, and you know, it's very, because not only is Luke watching the only parent he's ever met die, he's got to figure out how to deal with all of this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why at the very end, when he puts the body on the pier and lights it and he's looking at it, you can see that he's still working through all of it. He's still trying to process what's going on. And it's something that I'm really glad the EU explored a lot, because that would be a big thing. That'd be like waking up and finding Hitler was your dad. You know?
And how you process that, right?
You know, and it's sad though. You feel it's so hard to feel bad for a villain, but when you realize he hadn't always been that way.
No.
You know,
I felt sadness. I felt sadness, regret, and heartbreak. Just having him, you know, because like I said, I watched the prequels. I seen how his life was. He was a prodigy. He was a prodigy that was born a slave, born into servitude, and all he did was just be kind, sweet. Everybody loved him, and he absolutely loved his mother, and he always wanted to help people. Always. That was the core of his being. How did it all go wrong? And now finally seeing him looking at his son, you know, thanking, you know, the Force that, you know, I didn't let my baby die. I didn't let, you know, my son die. You know, that reminds me of the wife and the woman that I love and the life that I used to have. He probably thought about Obi-Wan on top of that. You know, everything. This whole life just flashed before him. But he said, you was right. Because I fought it all the way. Even throughout the entire movie, he fought it. He fought that the light. He fought the light side pull, knowing that his son was there. Like that. That's my family. I had nothing, and now all of a sudden, my family is here, telling me that I used to be a Jedi, that I stood for something, and I wasn't gonna let this man that I wasted 19 something years of my life, doing every heinous thing in the book, and I got nothing from it but pain and heartache, and he died in peace, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died in peace, more or less, and going to the ending, because you're right, Stephanie. That pirate scene is important. Just his look was one of acceptance, but he was still processing it.
Yeah.
He was accepting the fact that his father's suffering is done,
Yeah.
and just at the very end. And since I'm a Lucas fanboy to the death. His special edition, nothing against Sebastian Shaw, the original Anakin from the movies. I ain't got nothing against him. I felt it more seeing Anakin from the prequels because I've invested myself in that, and seeing his face looking at Luke, literally it put a lump in my throat to see Luke smile, and I'm already starting to get a little emotional behind it. Just seeing that entire scene played out, everything that he suffered throughout his entire life, and he was still blessed to go into the afterlife to see his son, him and Padme's son, do the things that he was not able to do, and Yoda and Obi-Wan standing right next to him just as proud. And that is supposed to how the Star Wars saga should have ended,
Yeah. If they weren't going to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. But before we wrap things up, let's go. I want to go to a specific scene which really tickled me pink. The fighting on Endor with the Imperials and the Ewoks going roughshod and stuff. Princess Leia and Han Solo was so badass, just doing the fights themselves, and then they trying to get the thing R2 done, and I just love seeing the dynamics between them, even the banter, even the thing, and yeah, it was kind of cheesy, but I loved it. I love when he said "I love you." She had the gun. She played a Han Solo, right?
I know.
Oh my God, I love that. It sounds cheesy, but I cannot help but smile when he looked at her like, "You holding the gun? I love you, girl." She said.
Well, it's you get the idea then that the relationship is basically there.
Yeah.
That they're gonna do everything together. That they're a team. It's not just Chewie and Han anymore. It's Chewie, Leia, and Han.
Yeah. Family.
And it watching them and realizing what he had been through, and we never really got to see any side effects or anything, which always kind of, there's a really good fanfic by somebody named Blue Corellian, and kind of not a nice person, I'm going to say that right now, but I've talked to her before, and she's a very good writer, and she talks a little bit about the stuff that had happened to Han, and so you're kind of watching this going, what is going on in his mind? He comes out of the carbonite. He's obviously going to be sick. He can't see. And suddenly he's leading this battle into Endor. How long between, you know what I'm saying? So you're wondering what's going on there. You know that Leia knows more about anything that's going on with him than anybody would.
Right.
So in that respect, that relationship is something beyond what it was. Did she have to nurse him on the Falcon? I mean, he seemed pretty fine getting on board. One of my favorite scenes that they did not put in the movie, and they should have done it.
Oh,
is
when they
walking through the sandstorm.
Yes, I have certain pictures of the stills on it. I might post it up on Twitter, but yeah, I wish they could have kept that.
That's another good one.
Because she's leading him through it, and he says, all I can see is sand. And she says something else, and he goes, well, I guess my eyes are getting better. What else is going on? What's going on in his head? And it's just, it's a really interesting kind of thing to think about while they're in that fight. And it just, this is the Han Solo that we did not get.
Right.
Even more grown up, that we did not get in the crappy ST.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
OG.
And it wasn't the Leia either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a little bit about Luke taking off the helmet and then go into that. For me, because we understand that Anakin is the chosen one, and we understand that that the Force kind of foresees your destiny. And so when I see him being forgiven and becoming a Force ghost and stuff, that's a part of Anakin as the chosen one's destiny. The chosen one prophecy doesn't state how he's going to accomplish that balance. It's just that he's going to accomplish it. So it doesn't really per se how he's going to get there. And then when you read Tatooine Ghost, and even Han says this, and Kickster, Anakin's best friend when they were young.
He was in that novel?
Huh?
He was in the novel?
Yeah, Kickster. Yes, Kickster Benai. Yeah, and Tatooine Ghost. That's another reason why you have to read that too.
Okay.
And he said, basically, Han says this, and this goes back to what Steph was saying about finding out how mature Han has grown and become, and becoming who he wants to be. That's his transformation too. We see in the original trilogy is basically Han tells Leia, "Do you really think Anakin could have gotten that close to destroy him if he remained good?" So basically, he's telling Leia that he had to go in on the inside. To destroy him on the inside, basically, in that novel. And so when you read that, you're like, oh crap. And so this is what this is Anakin's destiny. So when we see him at his final redemption, and and he's like, tell your sister, tell your sister she was right, or you were right about me, and him becoming a Force ghost and stuff, it makes sense. Because he's the chosen one, and we're looking at the lore, not in particularly our world, but what George is setting up in that world as well.
With the EU, that's right.
Exactly. And so getting into the final or into the Han and Leia scenes on Endor, yes, that gives us a glimpse of basically again Han's transformation as well. And all three of them have a transformation, even though Luke is the main focus. The other two are protagonists as well, and so we get to see them transform, and we get to see finally Han becoming the man that he was destined to be. Even though we didn't get much of it, it's still understood that there's this relationship going. And finally, when Luke, the Death Star is blown up, and they see the explosion up in the sky, and they look up, and he's like, "I'm sure he got out." And Leia's like, "Yeah, he did."
His facial expression was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, well, I won't get in the way." And she's like, and basically telling him, "No, he's my brother," kind of thing. And then look on his face, like,
I know nothing. Oh man. Harrison Ford can do some. Yep, Harrison Ford can do some damn comedy. I tell you one thing, his facial expression is priceless.
Yes, his facial expressions and his acting is great, and I love his you see maybe 3 sets of emotion, and when she says, "He's my brother," and he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "What the hell was going on in the past?" kind of deal too as well. So that was great. So
that was like you're what he's thinking. He's like, where the hell did that come from? Well, I'm happy with this. Where the hell did that come from?
It's like in 3 seconds we have this series of emotions that what Harrison played off really well. And
but at the very end he was happy. He's like, "Oh well, but she's still with me though, so I'm good to go."
Exactly.
Sporking News Podcast with the $2 super chat. Hail to you all. Wish you all peace and safety. Thank you. Good man. Thank you so much. Terminus EST. I didn't actually I did start it off by talking to her, but she kind of we jumped on Lethal Lightning and she was showing her guns and stuff. So I didn't technically miss it. I didn't read all of the chat, but I did acknowledge it. So and was that you that said that? If it was, man, I wanted to give you props anyway. So thank you for that. But yeah, man, Return of the Jedi with both prequels. That movie is, I mean, even now with the prequels, it makes Return of the Jedi like the big payoff, and it still pays off on now different levels now than when it was just the original trilogy. I want to put Return of the Jedi up there, but like I said, Empire, Revenge of the Sith, those are the two. So now Empire is with Return of the Jedi. Yeah, it's hovering with Phantom Menace now with me. You know, so now they're on the third and fourth top spot. So, but Return of the Jedi is up there on my list. You know?
Yeah, and Jedi Lukey basically, and I've said this before because I read the novel, the novelization, the Life and Legend of Obi-Wan. Basically, it explains a little bit more about how Anakin became the Force Ghost, and it makes sense again because he is the chosen one, and that was his part of his arc. He was made from the Force. You know, so it makes sense that it would be easy for him to go through a quick training, I guess you could say, like that, with and stuff, and or even if they didn't even have to explain it, it made sense for him to become a Force because he was basically made by the Force.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, this is where the payoff is, and at this point, we are going to wind things down and get people ready to head on out because it is Saturday night, and I know people got places to go, people to see, but I do want to leave you all with my final thoughts. Well, actually, final thoughts, Steph.
To me, Return of the Jedi was a great ending to the trilogy to begin with, and then when you add the prequels to it, it's the perfect ending for the Skywalker saga.
Absolutely, amen. Amen.
No more need be said. If they, and there's common sense there, because they weren't going to do it right.
Right. We've seen it.
It is satisfying. It is. You feel uplifted. You've been on a journey with all these people from the very beginning to the very end, and it ends in the right note.
That's right. OG, final thoughts, OG.
All right, so I do agree on that, and so it's basically Anakin's redemption and the beginning of Luke's journey as a Jedi, and so it's a great segue into his journey and his life in the EU, and George once said, and we know this, and he did give story treatment, and we know that, and story treatments are just a small little glimpse of what can be made. But in the past, George has said that, episode 6, Return of the Jedi, basically is the conclusion.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be the conclusion. And so with me, that is, especially for Anakin Skywalker being redeemed. And I think, again, like everything, like you say, there's scenarios where you can cross-reference a lot of like nods between father and son and daughter and father and stuff between the PT and OT. And like George said, it's like poetry. It rhymes. There's those little nods to show that there is familiarity and family structure going on there. Yeah. And how like with Leia, she resembles in attitude and demeanor Anakin, even though she's political and she's in the political realm like her mother. And then you see Luke, who basically has the demeanor as Padme, even though he's a Jedi. So we have a lot of those little things and those little nods that George put in there so brilliantly. And when you rewatch him, sometimes you even find something like, oh, I didn't notice that, or I didn't notice that. It's everything's still being discovered because George, with his mythologies, using the hero's journey and using the what is it called? The Greek tragedy for Anakin and stuff like that. It makes everything timeless. It makes everything like, it's not going to last. It like that long in people's eyes as George's original movies.
Yeah.
Because
It's
how
that-
he,
Amen.
when
Amen.
Hasbro doesn't even acknowledge it existed.
yeah,
What? That's
No.
that's telling. That's telling.
Well,
they're
I heard-
manufacturing nothing but OT and PT stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. I've heard, and I think I can say this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. What was I told? Okay. One of the Imagineers is related to a friend of mine, and they're working on Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
They're working on OT stuff right now for it.
Yeah.
Massive amount of OT stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say this because I all right. OG, I don't know if you know this, but I used to work for a congressman. I was a congressional aide. So politics, either in the office or out there, is something that makes me want to vomit. But when I see it, I see it. When that guy came out on that podcast saying that Kennedy came in there and told him not to do the OT Tatooine, he said that for a reason. They told him to do it. They told the vice president that had been working on Galaxy's Edge to say what she did.
Yeah.
And there's a PR war going on right now, and I'm not going to bring up what it's about because I know what it's about.
Right.
You guys would be cheering if I told you right now, but there's shit going down, and Favreau and Filoni and somebody else are not taking anything. Words have been said, big time.
That's good.
Fights in the boardroom, big time.
Wow, that's good. That's good because they know they
that's
fucked
all I'm
up.
gonna say because it when I start talking about this stuff, people look at me like I'm nuts. It's like, yes, and then everything I talk about ends up being true, right? Remember what I talked about? What the movie was going to be about?
Mm-hmm.
They took the movie away from JJ when they saw that. They didn't understand it. It's too deep in the lore.
Well, like I said, I'm happy with what we got right here. My final thoughts.
Yeah, I am too, and they don't need to go anymore. In fact,
my final thoughts is that this thing right here is perfect. We seen what happened with the other movies. Now we bringing it back to where it belongs. So with that being said, I'm going to give you guys a big treat because I still have episode 5 and finally the final one, episode 6. And then after that, we are going to close out because then I'll be telling you all 19 of you guys what my master plan will be. So hang out with me for only a little while longer as like I said, give you a big treat starting with episode 5.
I'll be right back.
It's one of my favorites. Greatest movie in my mind. The Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5. The rebels blew up the Death Star and survived. But now all of a sudden they're running for their lives. The Empire's coming and now they must hide. The planet of Heart was remote and so cold. A place where no one thought that they would even go. Commander Luke Skywalker was on patrol. A Wampa ambushed him and threw him in the hole. The Force was with him as he made his escape. Lost in the snowstorm, what would be his fate? The ghost of Obi-Wan told him to go leave, travel to Dagobah and learn what he needs. From the Jedi Master who taught him what he knew, it was time for young Luke to now go to school. Han Solo still had a price on his head. He had to find a way to pay or he'll be dead. Princess Leia wanted him to stay instead. He's a natural leader and should be at the head. Han said, no, I have to make this bed. Otherwise the sharks, till that I'll be fed. The Empire found him, it's time to go to war. Luke Skywalker was the first that heard the call. Darth Vader came through the building with the squad, bringing death to anyone that was involved. They was quickly overwhelmed, so they had to escape. Han Solo knew there was no time to waste. He grabbed Leia, Chewie, and C-3PO, flew off in the Falcon with nowhere to go. Luke grabbed R2 and flew the X-Wing off to Dagobah to find this new thing. The TIE fighters gave chase throughout the asteroids. The Falcon was too fast, they all got destroyed. Luke finally found the one that he sought. Jedi Master Yoda, who's strong in the Force. Darth Sidious gave his apprentice the news. A new enemy finally came through. The offspring of the Jedi Knight Anakin. He could destroy us, so he must not win. Darth Vader said, I will convert him then. To the dark side of the Force, the knee he will bend. Leia and Han, for true love that lasts, flew the best spin to see a man from the past. His name was Lando Calrissian, a gambler scoundrel who's also Han's friend. They was only here to fix the ship's hyperdrive, and once it was fixed, it was time for them to fly. Little did they know the Empire had arrived way before them and was waiting inside. Made a deal with Lando, but that was a lie. Betrayed him quick and made him wait on the side. Luke's training in the Force was long and hard. The dark side of the Force, you must be on guard. There is no try you will do or do not. That's how a real Jedi rocks the spot. Luke sensed that Han and Leia was in pain. I must help the master or I won't be the same. Yoda told Luke, no, here you must remain. If you leave now, their sacrifice will be in vain. I can feel the Force, but you cannot control it. Obi-Wan's ghost said to him, and you know this, if you face Darth Vader, you do it alone. Your life and your destiny, you all will not own. Obi-Wan told Yoda, that boy's our last hope. There is another, it's not the end of the rope. Darth Vader gave Han over to Boba Fett and Carbonite to collect on his debt. But Lando and Leia had to try to intercept, to try and rescue Han, but they failed the test. But now they had to leave, they say they own next. They flew off in the Falcon with no time to rest. Luke faced Darth Vader, now it begins. The lightsaber battle to bring it to an end. He fought hard, got scarred, and then it got harder. When Darth Vader said that he was Luke's father, he couldn't believe it, but in the Force it was true. Beaten and humbled, there was nothing he could do. He let himself go and let death have her way. But not today, as Princess Leia had him saved. Darth Vader called out Luke from the Force. Luke responded, but he was still lost. Why didn't you tell me, Ben? Through the Force, no response, and he felt even more lost. Lando and Chewie punched in the hyperdrive. They all got away and they all had to survive. Luke got a new hand and a new plan to go save Han and rejoin the band. Lando and Chewie flew off in the Falcon again. The rebel fleet flew off the Star's End. Like I said, our heroes got away. But now, we are going to end it off. Oh my goodness, wait a minute now. Before we do that, I got my brother over here, Mr. J. Han, with the $10.75 super chat. He says, this is probably redundant, but had the sequel trilogy have been given into more capable hands, it may have been somewhat more watchable and enjoyable than what Disney shot out at folks. Oh my God, absolutely, sir. You ain't never lied about that. But we learned a valuable lesson, J-Han. We learned a very, very valuable lesson. We learned that no matter what corporation, what entity, what studio that they could have, they will never, ever, ever, ever be able to be as creative as the maker himself, and that the property of Star Wars was better off with one man's vision controlling it all, and that was George Lucas. We've learned a very valuable lesson. We wish he shouldn't have sold the property. We wish that he was still here to give us the sequel trilogy that he intended us to see, but that's okay. You know, with Stephanie and OG Star Wars, they pretty much said the EU is your guiding light. And these two beautiful women basically is your guide to that. I'm learning because I'm just going to start getting my books together. So yeah, I'm a student.
I'm doing Ghost.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm going to be doing all of that pretty soon. Oh my goodness. Another $4.99 super chat from Comment Chat. What's up, Danny? how do the joint with Michael? Hey, do the no, I'm not gonna do that. Well, thank you for the $5 super chat, Danny, but this is not the one for that. That'll probably be in the Dark Council. I might do that again, maybe Tuesday, but I don't know about that. But I'm keeping it open, brother. So don't worry. This is all about Star Wars. This is all about oh my God, I need to smack my. I was getting ready to see sequel trilogy like a dumbass. See how you got me? Anyway, so we staying on the OT and knowing that this is, like I said, this is where it all comes down to it. And I'm thanking George Lucas for giving us the greatest saga of all time. You know, I'm thanking him to give me the greatest saga of all time. And I'm going to end this live stream. I'm going to end this live stream with the payback or the payoff episode. Get ready, everybody. This is it. This is where it all ends. Come on now. Now listen. I want to make a disclaimer. I'll let you try the Abu Nas style. But listen, I'm going to be so happy when I give you the gift that keeps on giving. Return of the Jedi, Episode 6. The Death Star is being rebuilt rather quick. Darth Vader touched down to see what's going on. There's not enough workers and it's taking too long. The Emperor's coming here, so don't sing that song. Speed up production or your clowns will be gone. On Tatooine, the droids arrived at the spot at Jabba's palace to see what he got. Everyone's chilling, here comes a bounty hunter. Captured Chewbacca and everyone still wondered, how did he get him? It really didn't matter. I'm here to get that money, so put it on a platter. Later that night, the hunter freed Han Solo from the carbonite where he thought his life was over. It was Princess Leia who was all in disguise. They tried to escape, but they was caught by surprise. Jabba the Hutt threw Han Solo in the cell. He took Princess Leia and made her a slave girl. Luke Skywalker came through, held it down. You either might free my friends or we putting you in the ground. Jabba laughing, said that ain't it. You cats are going to the Sarlacc pit. Hard as hell, but the gang is all here. Luke walking the plank, he's showing no fear. Did a triple flip, lightsaber in his hand. The Jedi Knight is in total command. Lando Calrissian was all in disguise. Jumped in the fight, hoping to save their lives. Princess Leia killed Jabba the Hutt. Boba Fett fell in the Sarlacc and was stuck. Our heroes won the day, they all had to survive. Away in the Falcon, they flew the friendly skies. Luke traveled back to see his old friend, unaware that his friend is nearing his end. Jedi Master Yoda, 900 years of training Jedi to live with no fear. Is Darth Vader my father? Luke tried to ask. Your father he is, the truth here at last. You rushed to face him, you wasn't even ready. But now you on point and I know you rock steady. The force is gone within your family. Passed on what you learned and gained victory. Master Yoda died, then Obi-Wan arrived. He sat Luke down to tell him more of his life. He had a twin sister who found out was Leia. They both was hidden from their father Darth Vader. The offspring of Anakin was always a threat to Darth City as the Dark Lord on the set. Speaking of the Dark Lord, he finally arrived, thinking of a way to get Luke on their side. On Endor, Luke told Leia the whole truth of everything about them and their whole groups. He told Darth Vader of the truth he now knows, and he's only here to save his father's soul. Darth Vader said, no, it's too late for me, son. He said to him, then my father's truly done. Meanwhile, the rebels had a plan. Blow up the shield generators and they'll go ham. Something went wrong as they walked in a trap. The Empire was there and there's no going back. The rebel fleet ran into the same trap. The Empire fleet was there and they attacked. Admiral Akbar was the one in command. Told them to hold down as long as they can. The Ewoks was the monkey wrench in their plan. They helped the rebels to get the upper hand. Luke Skywalker now met the Dark Lord. I won't turn to the dark side of the Force. fought his father at the throne once again, but he wasn't fighting him only just to win. I feel the conflict in you, let it go. Let the light side of the Force fill your soul. Darth Vader said, I have no use for you, but let me tell you on what I'm gonna do. Your sister will turn and learn at my feet, then Obi-Wan's failure will not be complete. Luke screamed in rage, turned on his blade, attacked his father in the most savage way, chopped off his arm, got him on his knees. Darth Sidious said, oh yes, I am pleased. Fulfill your destiny, take your father's life and take your rightful place right at my side. You're wrong, your highness, forget the dark side. Like my father before me, I'm a Jedi. Darth Sidious said, so be a Jedi. Young fool, now it's time for you to die. Sith lightning made Luke Skywalker scream. Anakin was now reliving a dream. Will he stand up to be a great Jedi, or will he do what he must to keep his son alive? Not even a choice for him to make. He grabbed Darth Sidious and that sealed his fate. Bathed in lightning, he threw him down the shaft. The end of the Dark Lord now came to pass. He told Luke, please go take off my mask so you can see me as life fades fast. Father, I won't leave you, it's okay my son. The Force was with you and that's why you won. The rebel fleet destroyed the Death Star again. The Empire is done and go tell your kin. The party on Endor was a sight to see. Everyone in the galaxy was finally free. Han Solo, the hero, Leia is his queen. General Lando is living the dream. Luke's smile made me so glad, seeing the spirits of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda and his dad. Now listen, looking down on him, celebrating the win. The Force is now back in balance again. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hanging out with all of us here. From me to OG Star Wars The Legend Gal, to Stephanie Janizceck of the Cantina, of the Smugglers Cantina, we wish you all a wonderful, wonderful Saturday evening. God bless, and may the Force be with you all. Good night.
Guys.